Guerrilla cricket. Whoa. Guerrilla cricket. Whoa. Guerrilla. Take guard, man the barricades, patrol the cover boundary. At last the time has come, this is a cricketing emergency. Hear this call to arms for every cricket revolutionary. Take up your bats and stumps for the test match insurgency. At first they tried to silence us, but we would not be silenced. They threatened us with lies, so we threatened them with violence. Che Guevara, Sangakkara, Joseph Stalin, Douglas Jardine, Robespierre, Darrell Hare, Vladimir Lenin, O'Brien Kevin, guerrilla cricket. It's not about the winning, it's about how many rules you break. Even in cricket commentary, this is the best advice to take. Pick guerrilla cricket, it's the finest choice you'll ever make. There's so much more to cricket than red counters and a slice of cake. At first they tried to sanitize us and clean up our act, but people like it filthy, and we know that for a fact. Fidel Castro, Lenny Pasco, Carlos the Jackal, Umar Akmal, Mahatma Gandhi, Grant and Andy, Brendan Behan, Austin Ian, guerrilla cricket. Stick with us, cause you know we're not the kind of thing that you see on the TV and the radio. So vive la revolution. First they tried to buy us, but we would not be bought. Okay, we were, but then we ran away, and we will not be caught. Would not give up the ghost when they left us all for dead. They decapitated us, but we just grew another head. Chairman Mao, Jamie Howe, Ho Chi Minh, Asif Din, Václav Havel, Graham Saville, No Surrender, Percy Fender, Che Guevara, Sangakkara, Joseph Stalin, Douglas Jardine, Robespierre, Darrell Hare, Vladimir Lenin, O'Brien Kevin, guerrilla cricket.
Good morning to you all. It is day 4 of the first test from the Gabba. And England overnight were 282, I believe, wasn't it?
That's correct.
And just 58 runs behind Australia going into day 4. Joe Root is at the crease, having got his highest score ever in Australia so far. And he's joined by Milan, who is back in Test cricket and is also in his 80s. And if you're optimistic, England are going to lead. If you're pessimistic, it's all going to go tits up before lunch. To find that out, I'm joined by Nakalem Pandey and Jason Hiscox. Good morning to you, boys.
Good morning, evening to everybody. Yes, some good partnership between Joe Root and Darwin Milan. Darwin Milan loves batting in Australia. Half of his test runs have come in Australia. Was played uncharacteristically loose shot in the first innings, but Joe Root and Darwin Milan showing the rest of England that the Australian bowling attack is not unplayable, that this pitch is not unplayable. 159 run partnership and over 3 runs and over as well, so it's not just been dogged defence as you would expect from Root, who's continuing his magnificent year, and Australia are still in a very good position. It would take England will need to bat for a long time to put up a decent score. We were talking just before we went on air about what that score might need to be. You think at least 200 in terms of a lead, and that will require more excellent batting of the type that was seen yesterday. But they have shown at least that Australia don't just have to turn up to win this Test match was the probably slightly unjustified fear after day 2.
Jason, your thoughts?
Yes, I think that's exactly right. They need to bat time, but they also need to score runs. I think they'll need to bat at least until probably lunchtime tomorrow to have any chance of saving the game. That will put them 250 ahead at that point, I think, if they manage to stay that long. But that's an optimistic, very optimistic viewpoint.
I'm not sure about that. I mean, Australia scored 340 on that second day. It's a big outfield, and you notice that when people get along, there's a lot of threes. It's back to. We haven't had this for a while, where teams have been getting. I mean, it used to be kind of de rigueur, didn't it? About 7-8 years ago, that teams would get 300 score. We were used to teams trotting along at 4 and over and stuff. And these kind of pitches out here, they're good to bat on, man. It comes onto the bat quite nicely, big outfields, and I think England can score. If you get ahead and 2 people are in, I think England can score 300 in a day, and that will give them a lead of about 240, 250.
We're in the slightly unusual position in terms of the cliche, where it's the second half hour is crucial. We're 10 overs away from the second new ball. Josh Hazlewood, who bizarrely only bowled 8 overs yesterday, has been confirmed as fit today. You'd imagine that he would bowl considerably more, and we saw the damage he did with the first new ball. So it might be a case of I don't know if Australia would necessarily give Cummins a couple of overs with the Cummins would give himself a couple of overs with the old ball, but you would think it's a case of getting a few off the old ball, resetting against the second new ball, and then obviously that can do a huge amount of damage for Australia, and then it's go again. I don't know if lunchtime tomorrow needs to be the target. I don't even know if necessarily 250 is the target. Although I will say is I do agree with Jason that is, I think taking the Australian win as far out of reach as possible will be the first priority. England will not mind at all getting out of the Gabba with a draw, and there's a lot of batting to come before they can do that.
Yeah, agreed. And I don't think England getting 500. Don't even know if they'll get there. They'll just bat until they go out, I imagine. That's certainly what I would do, having been where we were after the first innings. Right, we're going to play some jingles because the batsmen are out. We have this man. He's going to face the first ball.
Introducing the next generation David.
That's not my name. That's not my name. That's not my name. That's not my name.
Darwin Milan, congratulations.
And obviously the other batsman is this guy. And do we know who's opening up the bowling?
It is going to be the Australian captain.
Oh, he's taking the captain's armband and he's going to bring it first up. Take responsibility. And here's a jingle that goes like this.
Don't call it a comeback. He was never really here. He played a couple of tests and then disappeared. His body broke down like a balloon. But he's back now. Take it where it gets. Watch the ladies soon. Pat's gonna knock you out. Pat Cummins gonna knock you out.
Yep, it's Pat Cummins. He's 1 for 43. He's bowled 14 overs. And I guess they're just waiting for the clock to tick round. It's 29 minutes past on my clock here.
Yeah, I don't know if there's been any word on exactly why Josh Hazlewood bowled so few overs yesterday, but Cummins, Stark, and particularly Nathan Lyon bowled 24 overs yesterday out of 70, which I don't think would have been in the Australian game plan necessarily.
They brought him on really bloody early as well. And we all thought that they were just trying to get him his 400th wicket.
Which he is still waiting for.
Still waiting for, exactly. As Messi was telling me, I'll tell you this, as the first ball doesn't really go through, it's only 135 Ks by Cummins, and it's through to Carey and there ain't no run. A wetter, apparently, is a castrated goat, and that is what Nathan Lyon is in this test.
Yeah, 24 overs, none for 69 in this innings. Joe Root got to break out his sweep and even his reverse sweep yesterday against Nathan Lyon, and Darwin Milan was very happy to cut him even off deliveries that weren't very far away from off stump at all. Yeah, that's where he got quite lucky actually, because he was after this ball, Cummins is coming in second ball of the over, and Milan just lets it through to the keeper and there's no run. He cut a few that were well too close to cut, and he was lucky not to nick it through to the keeper. But you got to ride your luck, you've got to play your game.
and he got away with it yesterday. On another day, he'll nick one of those and it'll just be caught behind.
Probably the closest call of their partnership yesterday was a very ill-advisedly close leave that David Milan essayed off Nathan Lyon off a ball that kept on coming and went a few inches over the top of off stump.
I think they said it was 2
Not even that much, I
two
don't think.
centimetres, they said. It's enough. Just. Cummins going to come in. Third ball of the over. Straighter. A little bit quicker, it felt. Yeah, it was. And full, though. And David Milan just plays it under his eyes, defends it out to the offside, and there's no run. One thing I had said, actually, and one thing I was surprised. We all say that Australian bowlers bowl a little bit quicker. I was saying on day 2 that it'd be nice if Ollie Pope bowled that little bit quicker, but Nathan Lyon was only bowling 127, 129 clicks yesterday when he was opening, and I was quite surprised. And
Nathan Lyon?
Hazelwood. Cummins comes in fourth ball of the over. It's a bit shorter of a length, and it's left alone.
Yeah, maybe he wasn't just quite striving for full pace. I mean, we don't know exactly what happened. Maybe there was an injury concern. On injury concerns, by the way, David Warner has been confirmed as fit and able to bat. I don't think he's on the field because Henry Hunt, the young Australian who has been brought in from the Australia A game and is on as a sub fielder.
Yeah, he got
just spotted.
He got a nasty one under the armpit from Stokes. Clearly must have missed any chest pad if he was wearing one. And I imagine he's got a big bruise. Cummins, fourth ball of the over. It's been a slow first over. He's got his pace up to nearly 140 though by the end of it. He's coming round the wicket for the fifth ball. It's left alone by Milan, and it's through to Carey, and there ain't no run. He's 80 off 182. Root is 86 off 158, and England are 222. And if you're watching on Facebook and YouTube, I'm sorry, our scorecard is broken. It's very tricky to get these things right. And we had an API, and then that stopped working because basically the guy refused to update it for some reason. So we went back to our old way. The code's a little bit wrong, and so you've got span where the second innings should be. I'm very sorry about that. I can only get it fixed when he decides to get back to me, and at the moment he is not. Cummins is around the wicket, and it's left alone by Milan, and it's through to keeper, and there's no run.
Pretty friendly.
joined us.
Sorry, Jace, go ahead.
He says, greeting from a very fresh Dakar this morning. Dave Wood says, stop being optimistic.
Hendo's not here.
Shisho Dasgupta says, sinking the Fox Sports broadcaster Guerrilla Cricket for the all-important and exciting first session for day 4. Leah's with us. She says, good morning, everyone. Please don't make me regret sleeping on a yoga mat on a Sunday in the living room.
We won't.
And our own Anthony Condon, who I think is joining us later, says, a 240 leaded advantage England, I reckon. 150 would be defendable.
You'd like to think so, but I still think it's a pretty good batting pitch. The ball's coming on quite nice as the bat. It's moved a little bit, but
I think the pitch actually seems to have got a little bit better as the to bat on, and a little bit less capricious. I think it's dried out a little bit. Some of that grass isn't on the pitch quite so much. And we were talking actually off air about spinners, and the average for spinners actually goes up through the Test match at the Gabba. It's actually harder to bowl in the second innings, in theory, because I think the pitch does have a tendency to slow down a little bit.
Well, this is what I thought would happen with a new ball in 10 overs weight. Lyon's going to bowl.
He's the Aussie's leading spinner. He's Lion. He's not too bad, and that's true. Lion.
Well, Lyon around the wicket to Root, who just plays that square, and he'll get himself off the mark for the day. First ball he faces, just hits it square, moves himself on to 87. He's 13 short of 100. It'd be really nice if Root could get himself 100, get that monkey off his back. Milan scored 140 in Perth last time he was here, so he seems to enjoy. I was looking at his, he got 350s and a ton, didn't he, in that series? So he clearly likes batting in Australia.
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't actually done a great deal of batting anywhere else. I mean, he got dropped very soon into the next home summer against India, and this is his first time back after 3 and a bit years.
Yeah,
that's a pretty friendly first over from Cummins. I think he would have been very happy, David Milan, to have been able to leave 5 of them.
Well, that's another thing, isn't it? Lyon was around the wicket to Milan, who cuts that from close. Can't beat the man at backward point, though. And there ain't no run. The other thing about staying out there is putting, obviously, these are quick back-to-back tests here. We've got 3 tests before the end of the year. And we're, 10th of December already. So, getting overs in these 3 guys' legs is really important. They're the front line attack. Kind of India succeeded in that. Clipped nicely by Milan. There's a little bit of a misfield at mid-wicket. And Milan was ready to take the single, and they probably could have got it, but having decided to stop because they thought it was going to be fielded, they didn't go through with it, and it'll be a dot ball.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine Australia not rotating. I think Michael Neser took a 5 for Australia A against the Lions.
Yeah, I know, I agree with that, but that's driven by Milan out to cover and there's no run. In the same way that England haven't got Anderson or Broad in this side. Now, Australia might not fear them, but when other sides look at that, you think, oh, that's good. There's 1,000 test wickets there that's not playing. Left alone outside the off stump by Milan. Did straighten a bit, and it was a little wide to start with. Safe enough leave in the end.
Ish. I mean, he's not given himself much of a second line of defence there. He's not got his pad out in the way or anything.
No, but he is going to be spitting it away, and on that line, shouldn't go on. That's a nice drive by Milan. There's a deep set cover, though. He'll come across and field it. They'll get through for the single. And Lyon still remains wicketless after 25 overs, number 71. And Milan retains a strike. He's on 81. 222 for 2. Double Nelson. Tweets.
And Nick Stewart says, all out 15 minutes after lunch, I reckon, and just putting it out there before bed. Simon Nug says he's all set for an intriguing day of cricket at the Gabba. And if we move a bit further up the list. Come on. Excuse me whilst I recover my mouse. I've got 3 screens here, so it's...
Oh, yeah. Multi-screens. We love that. We've got 5 here. 6 if you include the broadcast.
And Leah says, that's BS, Bear. A witter is a giant genus of cricket indigenous to New Zealand. I think it's a weka.
A weka, sorry, that's what I meant. But we got there in the end.
Yeah,
but still,
the special effects workshop that did all of the Lord of the Rings films, among others, is Weta, based in New Zealand.
Sorry. Anyway, Cummins is going to continue round a wicket, guided by Milan, but straight to, I presume that's Cameron Green because it's a fucking giant. And
Melinda Farrell, who's working as a sort of pitch-side reporter for BT Sport, described him very succinctly and very nicely just before the start of play as a very large human.
He's massive.
Yeah, he like Kyle Jameson is. They're both 6'7" or so, and they're not the sort of beanpole like say Stephen Finn, but they're the broad fellows.
I mean, did he play rugby first, or I imagine he must have played rugby or Aussie rules or something. He just happened to be better at cricket. Cummins is in, and again, what I like about Milan is he plays it so late under his eyes. He doesn't take a big step forward, but he really lets the ball come onto him. And he just soft hands when he's not going to play a shot, and that just goes square out to point, and there's no run.
Yeah, he played. I suppose it allows him to play that cut shot very close to the stumps. He plays behind square very.
Yeah.
Well, it made his first innings dismissal where he sort of flashed at a ball or poked at a ball that wasn't going to hit the stumps on line or length. All the more weird. I know it moved off the seam and it was a decent delivery, but you'd think with the way he plays and having grown up in South Africa, he'd be well used to leaving the ball on length.
Yeah, I think, that one's soft defensive shot, comes up inside half of the bat, goes out square on the leg side. I don't think it was meant to go there, but safe enough, all on the ground, and he'll get himself another single. Reasonable start by England, not going along at a rate, but they don't want to lose a wicket early, and these guys need to get their eyes back in. It's a long session, 2.5 hours.
These two have got to be there at the new ball and probably into the first change of the new ball. Yeah,
I mean, ideally these guys bat for another 30 overs at least, but each get 20 overs of the new ball under their belt before someone else comes in. It is easy to bat when obviously the ball gets older. And this is a long session. And on day 2, Australia kind of capitalised in that last half hour because England were forced to bring on Leach. And they really went after him, and they scored, I think, 60 runs or something stupid. A large proportion of their runs on that first morning in that last half hour. And as that is defended by Root, just out to mid-wicket, and there ain't no run.
And yes, Cameron Green did play Australian rules football as a kid.
There you go.
Yeah, given that height, I'm not surprised. They're either complete beanpoles who play that, or short, angry little people who run around very
Punching.
fast.
He played under 16s for Western Australia and played pretty much both, but cricket offered him a contract first.
Yeah, there you go. See, knew that would be the case.
Very much like Shane Warne. He was going to be a rugby league person.
Well, he did. He was
Aussie rules person before.
Yeah, that's defended out to the offside and there's no run. Yeah, I was watching one of those programs on Sky with him, and who's that? Who's pictures up? It's not up. Go away, thank you. He actually had a contract, didn't he, with one of the teams in Melbourne?
Yeah, he played for St Kilda, which is where he grew up. I think not as a starter, but certainly as a promising junior. But he was told he wasn't quite good enough or big enough to make it Aussie rules.
Exactly, and I think he was quite lazy. He admitted that himself. I think they picked him up on it as well. Cummins is going to come back over the wicket to Root, and he just guides that. It was one of his favourite shots, but can't beat. I think Green at Gully, and there's no run to end the over. There's only one off that. Cummins over, but importantly no wicket, and England moved on to 2-2-3. Tweet.
Hey, Jago has joined us. He says, "I've just been tweeting on yesterday's game. I am not a clever man." Dave JB says, "Looks like we've learned how to leave a ball that's not going to hit or isn't there to score runs off." And James says, "First bit of the match I've been able to watch with you until my eyelids get too heavy."
Hello.
Suman Nag says, "In hindsight, looked like Hindi sight for a minute, would English greats eat words on Root batting first, looking at the score now?"
To my mind at least, way too much was made of the decision at the toss. Both sides, I think, probably would have thought, we probably should bat first, but we might look silly if we do, so we're going to bat first. And that's what England did. Whatever you do, you've got to do it well. And England, with the exception of briefly Butler and Pope, didn't.
Yeah. Anyway, Lyon is going to come around the wicket full, and defended back to him by Dawid Malan. Just scored the single this morning. He was on at 82. And England will be reasonably happy with his first. Well, he's had 15 minutes. Get on quarter of an hour in your legs and eyes, and get used to it. Down the track he comes. Doesn't get to the pitch though, and just defends it back to the bowler, and there is no run. Do you think that Leach bowled too full? Because I
think at times bowled too flat,
Yeah,
as much as too full. So the length is not so much of an issue, but if you can get the ball up and down like Lyon does, it does introduce that extra element of jeopardy.
Nice backward push, firm, but can't beat cover by Dawid Malan. And there's no run.
Jack Leach at his best is a bowler who likes to just put the ball on the spot, and let the pitch do the work. And he might have to, this is his first tour in Australia, and I think he's going to have to learn to introduce something in the air.
That's out, surely. Yeah, it's been given. Darren Malan's come down the track. I think he's got an inside edge onto his pad. Back pad has been caught by Labuschagne. Might have been a first time appeal for LBW, but he definitely, I think, got an inside edge. He just popped up. And Nathan Lyon gets his 400th Test wicket. Finally, after 25.4 overs, he has got 1 for 71. That's an important wicket, and it's a little bit of a shame. He didn't get to the pitch of the ball. It's good bowling, I guess, by Nathan Lyon. He's trying to draw him down attack, and Malan's trying to be a little bit aggressive. He didn't quite get there. Got an inside edge onto his pan. It's ballooned up. Labuschagne's gone charging down the track with the ball in his hand, and the first wicket has gone.
And that's a good illustration of what Nathan Lyon can do. That bit of overspin that he gets. Ball goes up, tempting Malan down the track. It then dips to catch him short of the pitch of the ball by some distance. Bounces on him and then tries to back out and pad it away, but gets a little bit of glove. And Marnus Labuschagne was very alive to the situation. And Nathan Lyon joins with Shane Warne and Glenn McGrath in the 400 club for Australia. Very well bowled.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about harder pitches. You can bowl a little bit shorter because you've got the slight bit of extra pace in the pitch, and obviously you can get it up and cause more trouble than the bounce. And it's always nice to have a hard pitch and be able to drag it back a little bit. It means the batsman's got to come further down the track to hit you over the top. That means you can beat them in a flight. England's next batsman is this guy. I don't know if he's still scratching his mark. No, I'll play.
Ben? Ben Stokes.
Milking it. Nathan Lyon's name in lights on the screen. Comes into bowl, fifth ball of the over. It's Ben Stokes, and he just leaves that wide outside his off stump.
That graphic's been in storage for a while.
Yeah, the whole test, man. They've been itching to get it out. And Stokesy faces up, and Nathan Lyon is in, and it's just defended. That's right top of the ball. Stokes plays it out to cover, and that ends the over. So Waden Lyon gets a wicket maiden. He has 1 for 71, and England move on to still stuck on 2-2-3. Tweets.
Warren asked the question, what with the day-night test and multiple time zones, votes on the worst test solely by time? For me, the second test can go F itself. In Perth, presumably. No,
the second test is Adelaide. That's 4 a.m. starts, those aren't too bad. Perth day games were a bit of a pain. Starting at 2:30 in the morning is an odd one.
Exactly.
Those are irritating. We will, of course, have 2 day-night test matches because it was announced just before we started play today that the 5th test match, which will be a day-night test, will be in Hobart. It's taken off Western Australia, so it will be the first time Hobart's ever hosted an Ashes test. I'm glad that we're getting a new venue.
Yeah, same here.
It'll be interesting to see how that goes.
Well, exactly.
It's a lovely-looking stadium, the Bellerive Oval down in Hobart.
The new Ashes venue, they played there a couple of tests against other opposition, haven't they?
Yeah, they played. There's a very famous stand between Gilchrist and Langer against Pakistan to win a game in 1999, I think. But yes, it is hosting its first Ashes test, and that will be a day-night test match.
It's going to start at 2:30, isn't it, or something, over here?
Similar, yeah.
It's a really shit time. Having got the wicket, I think they're going to save themselves for the new ball. 6 overs to go. Cameron Green gets to go, and maybe not a bad call.
We are the Cameron Green Appreciation Society. God save Mitchell Marsh's brand.
He's in for the first ball, and Root just plays it down towards third man. Get himself a single. He's quite good at rotating, isn't he? Doesn't spend a lot of time actually facing balls, Rooty. If everyone else is being slow, he gets himself off strike and then just waits at the other end.
He's pretty hard to tie down. Nathan Lyon really struggled yesterday to keep him on strike for any length of time. This is what he does so well. It's what Smith does so well at his best as well. You can never quite line him up. Ben Stokes, on the other hand, obviously didn't get any runs in the first innings and kept picking out the offside field. Travis Head pulled up a couple of very, very good stops at quite short mid-off to keep him tied down off very firm drives.
Well, yeah, it's going to be fun if Stokes gets in and Root stays there. That could be a lot of fun to watch. Green is in, and it's around the wicket to Stokes. It's well too wide of his off stump. And let it through to the keeper, and there's no run. And definitely, these two, if they get in, may put, will give the Aussies a little bit collie wobbles. They know what Stokes can do, and Root having got himself, if he gets to a ton and goes beyond, first time in Australia in the year he's had. If England can get themselves into a lead, every run counts, and they'll get frustrated. Cameron Green is in full and outside off stump, tempting, but Stokes isn't tempted, and lets it through to Carey, and there's no run.
I'm not so sure about this move from Cameron Green. Presumably Cummins knows who he's going to open with. I would have... fair enough, Cummins is going to take the new ball, fine. But I would have given whichever of those 3 is not going to take the new ball immediately this spell partnering Lyon rather than Green.
Well, yeah, but surely that is Pat Cummins. Stokes gets right behind that, and there's no run as he plays it up to mid-off, and there's no run. I mean, normally they open with Hazelwood and Stark, so it makes sense that Cummins bowls this, as you say. Maybe not the whole 5 overs to get them through, but maybe he could have
he bowl 3 overs and then have a break while
and then give the
Hazelwood
last
comes
2.
in, and
Yeah,
then
exactly.
him straight on afterwards.
He only bowled 2, didn't he?
Yeah, exactly. He should have bowled this one and then given Green the last 2, maybe. I mean, Green looks reliable. It's quite amazing that he only got his first Test wicket in the last game, driven hard by Stokes. Not that hard, actually. Didn't time it particularly well. It's gone straight to cover and there's no run.
Again, driven very, very sweetly, but straight to the field. Reliability, I don't know if that's what Australia need particularly as much as the value of getting a wicket now, either Root or Stokes, is huge, far more so than saving 20 runs.
Well, indeed, and you found, Stokes is the new man in, isn't he? I mean, he's faced 6 balls. Okay, Root's new to the crease, but as Stokes guides that one intentionally down through between third slip and gully, and that's the first boundary of the day as it makes its way down to the fine third leg boundary for 4 runs.
It's Nissan She. It's Nissan She.
Yeah, I didn't really do much. Stokes waiting for it and guiding it quite nicely. Might have been looking to get it the other side of Mitchell Stark rather than quite that fine, but it's perfectly in control of the stroke.
Yeah, soft hand, and it was always going down as well.
Yeah, I'm not wholly sure about that move from Green.
From Cummins.
Yeah.
Well, this is the thing, isn't it? New captain. Don't know what he's going to be thinking. I mean, as you said last night, didn't bowl Josh Hazelwood again through his entire last session, and that seemed very strange,
Yeah, again, I wonder if there was an injury going on there. I haven't heard anything, but the fact that certainly Crick first ball by ball coverage decided to make mention of the fact that Hazelwood is...
I was saying it on here as well. I found it quite odd. Lyon was proven to be reasonably ineffective yesterday, and Manan and Root seemed to be on top of him and scoring quite freely for him. They weren't battering around the park, but they weren't particularly troubled by him. And Hazelwood hadn't bowled many overs. It did seem a bit weird. But Lyon's going to continue. He's coming round the wicket to Joe Root. That's an odd one. Root goes back and just drops in the offside, and again just faces 1 ball and gets down the other end. Very good. Moves on to 89.
No problem with going round the wicket, particularly. Ball is turning a little bit.
Yeah, not enough though. I mean, it's a very defensive line.
Really, you can open up both sides of the bat. So the ball that goes straight on and the ball that turns.
Yeah, but only if it's...
I suppose, actually, he might have been looking to try and get Root off strike and bowl at Stokes.
Well, yeah, that might have been the case, I suppose. And you're happier... Marnus Labuschagne, I don't like Marnus Labuschagne. He's too weird for me. He hops on the crease and looks very animated as he feels that one that's just dropped onto the floor by Stokes. And... Line again. Oh, big swing. No, ding, there's an appeal for caught behind. I think that's probably just because it's Stokes. I mean, he went for a big slog sweep there. They don't particularly seem interested in reviewing it. And it ends up being a dot ball.
Turned out the bowler's foot mark? Oh, no, it didn't even really turn, it just bounced.
Well, that's what I mean. It turned a little bit, but not much. That's what I mean. Coming around the wicket to the right hand, it seems a bit weird without excessive turn. This one's straighter and a peel. Quickly fall out of that peel. It's going down leg. And there's a no run. That brought me back to the Ashes. When Nathan was lying, when Stokesy got his match-winning innings, and they'd blown their reviews. Oh, there's no. That was pad first, I think. It's half an appeal, and Lyon does look back at the umpire. Probably hit him outside the line
of off stump, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think so. And it's defended in the offside, and there's no run.
The
Irish time is still going.
No, they haven't. They were thinking about going for it and didn't.
They had a review yesterday, and it was a pretty poor review.
Oxygen Morocco's joined us. He says, "Evening, Grillos. Tucked up in bed, looking forward to drifting off and dreaming of a famous England victory. Then waking up and realising it was a dream after all."
Well, yeah, could happen.
Paul Marshall says, "I can't believe the last 2 sessions yesterday. I thought the game was dead. and buried. If we escape with a draw, this will be a great series. And David Ward just says, doomed.
Yeah,
Get that in early.
defended last ball, out to cover, and there's no run. Carry on.
Our own Grubby says, huge admiration for Lion, massive dislike of Labuschagne.
Yeah.
Snigermeister says the women's Ashes has a free stream, but not the men's Ashes by ICC. So he's living on Guerrilla Cricket and Cricket.com AU highlights.
Yeah, the ICC's streaming platform that they've come up with for some games is a very weird thing. In theory, it's a great idea, but it's geo-blocked in a lot of territories, and they've now introduced a paywall, which seems like a very odd way of going about growing the game.
Adrian Lowe also thinks we're doomed. Colin Archer says that was poor from Milan.
Oh, there's an edge though. Oh dear, this was what I was fucking talking about before we went on air. Wasn't it, Knackle? This is the problem. Root has nicked off behind, and that is a big wicket, and Root has gone for 89. This could... this is so annoying.
I won't look back, 'cause by the time that I do, you'll be gone.
He's been drawn into playing a ball that was not probably going to hit the stumps. He did very nearly nick the last ball of the day yesterday from Cameron Green. It might have been a defensive or a get through to the new ball move, but it's worked. Root again drawn into the shot outside off stump, perhaps just on the angle, and a little feather through to Alex Carey, and England's job has just got much harder.
Well, this was the nightmare scenario that we were talking about, isn't it? You know, you get these two out before the new ball comes along, and suddenly 49 looks like a lead of, if you're lucky, 50, and there's someone's down. I mean, you've got Ollie Pope and you've got Stokes, but they're both new to the crease with a new ball just 3 overs after this.
Yeah,
away.
Ollie Pope not used really to facing the new ball. I mean, more so, I suppose, recently for Surrey, but yeah, the move has worked for. It's all coming up Australia this morning.
Yep, it is.
Let's give Green a little bit of credit there, because he did just a tiny bit of shape on there on a 78 over old ball.
Yeah, just a little hint of gentle reverse, and maybe just that. He bowled it from quite close to the stumps, but I think Root will look back on that and think that's a ball he didn't need to be playing.
No, he didn't need to be playing that. He could have left it. But hey, these are decisions you make. This man is at the crease.
We got a poke, take a good hard look, it's Ollie Pope, it's Ollie Pope, take a hard look at Ollie Pope.
Yeah, he'll be disappointed. And goes that way. It's a good innings of 89. And he's got England halfway to a position, which is admirable. And at least made Australia think. However, we have now two new guys at the crease. We'll have a change at the end of this over. Cameron Green is coming in to bowl to Pope. First ball. Just plays it behind square on the offside, out to gully. And there is no run. He'll be a little bit nervous. Batted pretty well in the first innings, I thought.
Yeah, very positive, very decisive in his foot movement. He was looking for singles all the time and getting them. He looked like he knew what he was trying to do.
Yeah. Do you think... I know it's early in the series, but Rory Burns again. Come back to Rory Burns. Hasib Hamid, I think, has looked pretty solid, actually, it has to be said. Which will make Grubby eat his words. I'm sure he'll come back with a tweet and say he's hasn't got to 30 yet. But Pope ducks underneath a bouncer from Cameron Green. There's no run. Rory Burns looks vulnerable to me.
Yeah, I mean, he was the obvious option going into the series.
Yeah,
and
of course.
I don't know that England necessarily have a better opener waiting around than Rory Burns, but he is vulnerable early in his innings. I think more so than many openers because of the moving parts that he has to his game.
Yeah, totally. And it's defended by Pope nicely. Sternly out to cover, and there's no run. I wonder if they might, I wonder about Zach Crawley's reprieve. I mean, I said in our podcast that we did with What a Player, I wonder if, much as on that podcast that we did with Chris Broad, that he goes hard at the ball and likes the ball coming onto the bat, and he might be another sort of player who actually thrives in Australia. Pope just knocks that square once again. That's backward point, and there is no run.
Possibly. I mean, there is always the worry with Crawley that he, with the ball moving away from him and him planting that front foot. Obviously, there's an issue with Burns that he ends up playing around his front pad a lot of the time and gets himself closed off a lot. So there's obviously technical issues there. I mean, Zach Crawley is one of those players who, when it's all working, looks extremely good.
Yeah.
But we also saw that his timing can desert him completely.
That's angled in at leg stump by Cameron Green, last ball of the over, and Pope nicely clips it very fine down to a fine leg, and will get himself a boundary to get off the mark and end that over.
1, 2, 3, 4.
And we will have a switcheroo. It is who's on next? It's not me, I know that much. It's Knuckles who's taking over for me. Messers is joining him with 40.
Thank you very much, Bear. Great start for Australia this morning. England started overnight at 224-2, and in these 7 overs they have lost 2-4-13. Darvin Milan pushing, coming down the track and being beaten in the flight by Nathan Lyon, popping up a catch to Marnus Labuschagne at silly mid-off. Marnus Labuschagne getting Nathan Lyon his 400th test wicket. Milan gone for 82, and then Joe Root, a few in from Cameron Green, then drawn into playing one he shouldn't have been playing at, gone for 89. Ben Stokes and Ollie Pope are on 4. England 233 for 4, still trailed by 45 as Lyon continues. Stokes comes forward and pushes into the offside. There is no run. I am joined by, from opposite sides of Australia, Messi Jez and Ian Forth.
Good morning.
Good morning to Australians. Good morning to the English as well.
Perfect first half an hour for Australia as Stokes awaits. Short and hammered by Ben Stokes, and well stopped on the dive by the fielder at cover, just getting a bit of a hand on it as Stokes tried to crash a cut shot away, palmed by Patrick Cummins to his mate at point, and it's just a single.
Scenario we see so many times, isn't it? A huge partnership lasting 2 sessions, and then the following morning, after all that mental exertion, they both go within the first half hour. It's a frequent scenario.
Yeah.
I should warn you both and the listeners that I may drop out suddenly. Windows has decided to crash me a couple of times already today. So if I disappear, I will be back, but it'll take a few minutes.
Slipping a short leg for Ollie Pope to Nathan Lyon, going over the wicket. Tosses this one up very slow, and that little bit of lack of pace and a little bit of extra bounce has got Nathan Lyon number 401. He had to wait an age for 400, and Ollie Pope has just steered that in very, very soft fashion to slip. A bizarre looking dismissal for Ollie Pope, who looked good in the first innings, but that is a very odd way to get yourself out for 4. 3 wickets now for Australia this morning, still 44 behind, as England 5 down.
Yeah, he got himself in no position to play whatever the shot it was that he was intending to play. His feet were all over the place there. I feel that England are being overly aggressive, if you like. I think they should have pulled their horns in this half out of the new ball.
I mean, have they? I mean, Joe Root was defending at a ball that wasn't going to hit the stumps. Ollie Pope wasn't really playing an aggressive shot either, and Darvin Milan ended up getting out of a defensive shot as well. I'm not wholly sure that bears fruit. I mean, Pope was sort of looking.
I felt Pope was trying to play an overly aggressive shot. Even with Root, I felt, I mean, you can't blame Root. He gets an awful lot of runs with that glide down through third man. So no, we'll probably absolve him.
I don't think it was a glide at all. I think he was defending a ball that he thought was on a different line to what it was actually on. Maybe a little indecision, if anything.
We may have to disagree on that.
Joss Butler to the middle, batted pretty well in England's first innings, particularly against the Seamers, but he and Ben Stokes have an awful lot of work to do.
But he also can't spell Butler, Joss Butler. Just because he is Joss Butler. One S and two T's, Joss Butler.
Looking at that again, it did bounce significantly from Nathan Lyon to Ollie Pope, but it was a very odd-looking dismissal in the end. Joss Butler facing up to his first ball, the slip and the short leg. Butler goes back to this delivery and defends outside off stump. It was Stephen Smith who took the catch, adjusted well to a ball that he possibly didn't think he was going to get a catch off.
Yeah, I'm going to slightly contradict myself here and say there's definitely been a strategy. You can see it through the England team of being more aggressive than normal in the first Ashes Test down under.
Forward comes Butler, solidly defends into the offside, and there is no run. Nathan Lyon's bowled pretty well this morning. He's into his fourth over of the day, and has bowled comes that after this delivery to finish the fourth over, which bounces on Joss Butler. He's playing for turn there, and it's just gone past the outside edge into the gloves of Alex Carey. Good over from Lyon, 1 run and the wicket of Ollie Pope. England, having started in a position to potentially erase this lead, now find themselves fighting for survival again. 234 for 5, still trailing by 44 runs.
So that's quite a lot of tweets here. I may skip through a few. Leah, in response to the ICC paywall, says that's capitalism for you. It's one of the reasons I'm an anarchist. TMN says another grass catch given by the Aussie umpires. Nestlers is with us. I hope you weren't too inconvenienced by the strike on the central line last night, Nestlers. I thought there was a weird noise on the comms, but it's a cat purring. To which Hender says, which cat? And then Mog says, and so the inevitable comes one step closer. Jay says, I wonder how much Lyon will bowl now. He has his 400. Chris Calvary asks, can Warner open or does he have to wait?
He can open. It was an external blow, so he can come in his normal position.
Nestlers tells us the cat was his neighbour's but has now chosen to stay with him. Warren says, if we're reviewing Great's career, can we mention the missed run out?
This is Cameron Green continuing after getting the wicket. After he got his first Test wicket in the first innings, he got taken off the next over, but he's gonna bowl this outside off stump, and it's left alone through to the keeper. There is no run.
Interesting little dilemma for Pat Cummins. Whether he takes the new ball in a couple of overs' time, he probably will. It seems like I don't
think it's that much of a dilemma, to be honest, Fourthy. As Green is in outside off stump, a little bit of bounce, and Carey takes it head height through to the keeper. No run. I think what has happened this morning is a massive bonus as far as expectations that Pat Cummins would have had going into the day. Yeah, Nathan Lyon has start was overnight. He was none for. He was none for 69. 4 overs later, he's 2 for 73.
Yeah, and look, I think almost certainly will take the new ball. I'll just leave off there.
Green in wider of the crease, trying to tempt Stokes into playing. He does walk a little bit across to middle and off stump, but then lets it go on length, and there is no run.
Yes, it's just that Nathan Lyon, having looked completely toothless yesterday, is suddenly looking like the bowler who's got 400 Test wickets this morning, and that last over actually was excellent. It's getting all sorts of bounce and turns, so just a minor dilemma, but I'm sure they will take the new ball.
Yeah, I would be very, very surprised if that didn't happen. This is a half volley from Green, which Stokes drives very hard, and it's unaccountably misfielded by Marcus Harris at short extra cover. The ball was hit hard, but straight to him and then straight through him. And I don't think they actually did come through for the single there, because it went straight to mid-off. So an odd delivery to an odd dot ball.
It wasn't the finest bit of Test cricket you'll see all that.
No, it was hit nicely, I suppose, but straight to the field. We have temporarily lost Jez, whose threatened computer update has happened. Stokes continuing to find the fielders. He's 5 off 18. Very good, very full does Cameron Green, and Stokes jabs down on this and it dribbles up to mid-on. There is no run. Green's just getting a little bit of movement away from the right-hander and into the left-hander with this old ball. We saw that Cameron Green did get a few to come into route, and then one away from route, bowling from pretty close to the stumps, but Joe Root will look back on that and be disappointed that he was drawn into playing it. Last ball of the over from Green is left alone through to the keeper. A maiden from Cameron Green, who's warming up nicely as the fifth bowler, and England 234 for 5, 1 over away from the second new ball.
Yeah, he's doing a good job as the fifth bowler. It's obviously a vacancy that Australia have a weakness of sometimes struggle to fill, but 1 for 21 off your allotted 10 overs within the 80 is exactly what they're looking for.
It's very Shane Watson, sort of 10, 12 overs at about under 2 runs a ball. Seeing that Joe Root has been twice drawn into pushing slightly, not pushing, but defending slightly outside off stump. One very early in his innings from Hazelwood, and then one much more advanced in his innings by Cameron Green.
Yeah, he gets a lot of runs, as we all know, glided through third man. Break off.
Line is into Butler, who goes back, and it's a half shout from, or not a half shout, a half ooh from Lyon as Butler goes back and defends this from the crease, and there is no run.
Yeah, I think cricket being a game of millimetres, probably didn't have his feet moving quite the way he had them yesterday, and just that marginal difference accounted for his wicket.
Lyon in reverse sweep from Butler, plays that shot very well and has hit that beautifully. There is a fielder at sort of very fine backward point, but he could barely move as the ball screamed past him for 4. Good shot. Wasn't an easy delivery to play that shot off because it was pretty full, but he's timed that beautifully.
Yeah, it's a complete change of strategy in this series from Butler. He's been taking his one-day form and saying to hell with it, and good luck to him.
Back of a length and clipped by Butler pleasantly into the onside for a single. Well, yeah, I think that I wouldn't say that he's going hell for leather, but there's a greater decisiveness to him, certainly, on
there
the
is,
limited evidence of this series.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly right. He's cleared his head. He's decided he's not going to be pinned down. It's not always going to work, of course it isn't, but it would be nice to think that at one point in this series he plays an absolutely decisive Master Blaster innings, maybe today.
Slip and the silly mid-off. Stephen Smith at first slip minus Labuschagne at silly mid-off, and it's to Labuschagne that this goes. Stokes defends on the bounce, and Labuschagne plays a bit of volleyball, patting the ball back to Alex Carey, and there is no run.
Labuschagne gets quite a lot of hate, shall I say?
I like Marnus.
I find him.
I quite like Marnus Labuschagne. I'll expand on why after his delivery from Lyon. This is pushed into the offside. There is no run. I like the fact that he's a bit weird and isn't afraid to be. I like the fact that he is not he's not trying to be an alpha, as it were. And I think he gets a little bit of stick, or has got a little bit of stick, even from Tim Payne behind the stumps for the fact that he chirps a lot. And I think I like the fact that he's not trying to be anyone other than himself, and I think a lot of Australian cricketers have fallen into the trap of trying to be something they're not over the last few years, leading to various cultural problems that are very well established. This is pushed on the back foot to backward point, and there is no run. 5 runs off the over. England 239 for 5. They lost 3 wickets in the 10 overs this morning before the second new ball was due. I'm sure it will be taken now, and England still trail by 39.
Yes, the listeners out there are hoping to have their tweets read out. Unfortunately, we've lost the connection back to Messi.
Yeah, Jason, if you could jump on quickly, that would be helpful.
There it is. Oh,
I'm here. Do you want me to kick off some YouTube comments?
Yeah,
Please
go
do.
for it.
So welcome. Luca Davis says, welcome from Saigon. Cruella DeVille says, Messages looks smug. Well, he doesn't look smug at the moment because he's not looking at anything. Ravishing Rohit says, hey guys, you're back on YouTube. Missed you all.
Yay! For how long we don't know, but yay!
And Superbus Staradub says, wow, Australian cricketers, wow. to whatever point, I don't know, and going back onto Twitter, Mog says, paywall on content do exactly what they intended to do, Knackle. Keep the pause away from cricket. Cricket can't really abide those pause, and gouge some cash from slightly less pause.
Oh, well, yes, but yes,
So somewhat nihilistic view.
Well, there was me thinking that the ICC were anything other than a content delivery platform these days. Well, Cameron Green is going to continue with the old ball. So Patrick Cummins making the... I suppose they've got a little bit of time to play with it. It's worth having a go for 1 over. The first ball is very comfortably defended into the offside, and there is no run. So the old ball is being persisted with.
Sometimes they just tend to have 2 or 3 with the old ball, but on the other hand, you wouldn't do that with Cameron Green. He wouldn't be your opening bowler, so it is quite a moderately interesting development.
Green in, 2 slips in the gully, and a silly mid-off. That's a good delivery from Cameron Green. Ball's from pretty close to the stumps and just coming in on the angle and then moving away a little bit. Butler not following it with his hands, but was well and truly beaten, and there is no run.
Yeah, we've yet to see what sort of captain, what identity Pat Cummins will have as a captain. Michael Clarke established himself with some funky decisions, as he was known for. Will we see that from Pat Cummins? Doesn't look like he's going to be a funky captain, but he hasn't taken the new ball.
Far too early to tell, as Green comes in back of a length, and Butler, who does play handily outside off stump, but you can trust the bounce on this surface, and does so fairly comfortably, and there is no run into the covers.
Beautiful morning in Brisbane. I'm just looking outside in Melbourne. Beautiful morning down here as well. I'm sure that those of you who are shivering under the doonas and duvets in back in England probably wishing you were here, but you know, you'll get your summer eventually.
Green in, 4th ball over the over is full and on driven by Butler, and a good sliding stop from Cummins at mid-on prevents any runs, and Butler continues to be on 5.
Yeah, look, if anything, any miracle's going to occur, it's going to occur from these two, from Butler and Stokes. This could be the start of something miraculous. It almost certainly won't be, but that's cricket, isn't it? And one thing we haven't seen, of course, is Stokes and Butler in tandem, or even individually, really, firing in an Ashes series. So here we are in Australia.
As Green is in, Butler pushes this into the offside, into the gap between point and cover. It's a little scamper on from Travis Head, I think that is. Marcus Harris, in fact, chasing that bat. And it'll just be a single. Yes, Josh Butler playing his first overseas Ashes series.
We haven't seen Stokes since the series before last.
13-14, yes, the summer.
A memorable century in Perth, and that's 7 years ago, 8 years ago.
Yeah, 2013. Debuted in Adelaide, as Green is in to Ben Stokes. This one's rising outside off stump and left through to Carey. There is no run. 1 run off the 81st over, not though the first over with the second new ball, because the old ball was persisted with. England 240 for 5. If you are just joining us, it did not go well for England this morning. They lost 3 for 14 in 7.3 overs, with Darvin Milan beaten in the flight, trying to come down the track, not particularly aggressively, but just to smother the spin to Nathan Lyon, and popping up to Marnus Labuschagne at silly mid-off for 82, giving Lyon his 400th Test wicket. Joe Root was done by a decent delivery from Alex Carey, Cameron Green rather, just moving away and nicking behind to Alex Carey. His wait for an Ashes 100 in Australia goes on, and then Ollie Pope done by a bouncing delivery that he jabbed awkwardly to Smith at slip for 4, also off Nathan Lyon, who is going to continue, and Butler reverse sweeps. They have put a man back on the boundary for that shot, so it's just a single. Bit of a surprise, perhaps, as Messi Jez rejoins, that Australia didn't take the new ball immediately.
Well, I mean, we did float it as a possibility, and I'm not entirely surprised. Lyon's been...
As Lyon is in round the wicket to Stokes. This is swept very hard by Ben Stokes, and very well by Ben Stokes, into a yawning gap at mid-wicket. Probably swept that directly over the head of a short leg for 4.
Yeah, Lyon's been bowling excellently this morning after being toothless yesterday. I think that shot from Stokes, assuming that nothing untoward happens to the rest of the over, probably ensures that the new ball will be taken, but we'll see.
Yes, it's a. You wonder if actually Stokes could have been a little bit more subtle about it and
That's right.
work a couple of singles around rather than smashing him for 4 if you want to keep him on. Fox's captions are broken again. Incidentally, they have Cameron Green bowling, and it is very much Nathan Lyon. Slip and the silly mid-off in position. Tidy delivery on off stump, defended to Labuschagne at silly mid-off, and there is no run.
Yes, I don't think we can blame all the technical failings on COVID. It's been a bit of an amateur.
Well, I think there have been issues. We know that DRS, in the way that it's supposed to function, has been hit by border closures and not getting relevant tech and personnel into Brisbane properly, because you have to 14-day quarantine. We've just got a little bit without picture here, unfortunately. There's a little glitch there, and so we're commentating off nothing.
We're back.
That's interesting. Give me a chance to do some of the tweets I missed out. I'm sorry for my sudden exit. Hopefully Windows won't crash on me again. And Indo says we're doomed. Janet Hopper says an English male batter playing at a ball they didn't need to. Imagine that. And Farong says, well, I got my coffee. Australia got root in Milan. It's been a good morning so far. 6 a.m. and the Dhaka sun are about to rise. And Hendo says, only seen 135 minutes of this Ashes and 6 England wickets. Time for sleep. All right by lunch. Hopeless. Again, not making a team work for their wickets.
Good night, sweet prince.
I don't know whether you guys have got any feed at all. I've got one.
We do not have a feed, and seemingly neither does Cricinfo's ball by ball commentator. Thought you had to do ball by ball, actually, given that you're the only one who can actually see a ball.
Well, I would have done. Well, the Fox feed's just gone down as well. So
well, it is the Fox feed that BT are taking. So we're flying blind, I'm afraid, fellas.
I think Channel 7 has a feed. They're just on an ad at the moment. Right. If they come back on after the ad, then I can give you something.
So it must have been. Well, I can tell you that the 2 deliveries after the 4 that Ben Stokes hit were dot balls.
It's back.
And we're showing now replays on our BT Sport of the wickets. Should just tell you about the GPL. You've got guerrillacricket.com/competition. Follow the on-screen instructions to get involved. And what you're getting involved with is guessing the number of runs that will be scored in today's play. You can have as many guesses as you like. You pay £1 per guess. All of your pounds go into a pot. And we're back with the action as... we're still seeing... apologies, we're still seeing
I can tell you Mitchell Stark is coming on. Obviously,
Messi.
Take the new ball.
Hi, Messi. I've gone over to Channel 7, so I've got a feed
Good
as
on
well.
you.
Shall I do ball by ball until Knuckle gets his feedback? Okay, so the situation: Mitchell Stark replacing Cameron Green. Whether he has taken the new ball, we can't quite see as yet. Can't quite see from that cherry. Stepping back to his mark. England trailing by 33. 5 for 245, 245 for 5. We get a less complete caption on Channel 7, so I can't tell you the individual.
I can confirm that the new ball has been taken.
The new ball has been taken. So a big moment in the match. Mitchell Stark comes in, and that's nicely tucked round the corner. A confident start from Joss Butler, who moves up to 8 of 13. Brings Ben's just round the corner down to fine leg. Brings Stokes back on strike, and we're just seeing a bristling Mitchell Stark looking sweaty in the Brisbane sun. Big moment for him. He's 1 for 61 or 14 overs. Didn't go particularly well for him yesterday, so he'll be looking to make amends with the new ball.
Had to bowl a few more overs than he was perhaps expecting, because Josh Hazlewood only bowled 8 overs yesterday. Presumably Hazlewood will be taking the ball from the other end. He's been on field. Give me a chance when I'm not talking over a delivery
no problem.
The GPL plug.
Yes, so Ben Stokes just settles himself in, scratches his foot on his mark, settles over in that familiar stance, has a look round the field. Mitchell Stark comes up to the wicket. Expectation rises. Oof. Oh my goodness me, that's a hell of a ball to receive. So that pitch is on a good full length ball that just moved away, probably off the seam. Goes all the way through at head height to Alex Carey. Ben Stokes a little fortunate to survive that one, an absolute belter to receive with the new ball.
I look forward to seeing it tomorrow.
England trailing by 32, 246 for 5. Stokes on strike. Mitchell Stark coming in for just the third ball with the new ball. Some odd camera angles from Channel 7. Gain getting some very nice shape there. That one, if anything, previous ball that's hitting coming off the seam. That one seemed to have a little swing. Gain. Stokes in this match, I don't know what you two guys think, looks like a very good player who's struggling to get himself back into form in a hurry, I would say.
He's not been able to play much cricket or even train much this year. His timing was good in the first innings, his placement wasn't.
Exactly right.
Indeed. It would seem that the speed camera has gone down as well, because we're not getting any speeds on start, but I'd say he's up the high 140s the way he's looking.
I think the fact that Brisbane requires or Queensland requires a 14-day quarantine has meant that a lot of technical crews and a lot of gear simply didn't arrive.
Yeah.
By the way, the box feed that we're getting in England via BT Sport is still down to an extended adverts.
Okay, that's the fourth ball of the over. That's a full ball on off stump, which Stokes jams down on, and the ball wanders in a leisurely manner out to mid-off, where it is fielded, and we remain at 5 for 246, which would be a respectable score were it not for the fact that England scored 147 in the first innings and still trailing by 32. Stark turns at the top of his mark, comes in, bowls, and that's nicely left. Stokes just perhaps beginning to get his eye on his 9 off 33, Butler 8 off 13. Stark remains on 1 for 61. There's one ball of the over to come. Looks very warm out there. Ben Stokes always looks pretty hot. He's looking particularly pink this morning in the Brisbane sun. But great things are expected of him in this series, his first for 8 years, as we observe. One ball to come.
I thought it was a little strange, despite them bowling well, they didn't take the new ball straight away to stop giving Stokes more chance to play himself in.
Yeah, I thought that was an odd move. I suppose it's worth it for 2 overs, but it was...
So, last ball of the over, and in approved Headingley 2019 match-winning style, Stokes hammers that one through the covers. Unfortunately, on this occasion, not to win a test match, but at least to score 4 runs and to bring the deficit further down. I'll hand over to you. I unfortunately can't read out the scorecard because I haven't got it in front of me.
Well, I can tell you that that takes England to 250 for 5. They trail by 28. I may as well do socials, given that I can't actually see anything. But I will tell you about the Guerrilla Prediction League. It's our game of skill and predictive ability, where you guess the number of runs that will be scored in each day's play. You pay £1 per guess. All of your guesses and your pounds go into a pot, and if you're absolutely bang on with your guess, you win the pot, which started today at £73. You have until lunch, so 2 a.m. UK time, to get your guesses in. So you have, with this long first session to make up for the rain on day 1, you have an hour and a half. GuerrillaCricket.com/competition. I may as well leave you now, given that I cannot actually see what is happening. And Ben Pobbier is going to be making his Guerrilla Cricket debut, joined by Jason Hiscox and Jacob Jaffa. Although I'm not actually sure that Jacob or Jason can see the cricket either.
Hello, Nathal. Absolutely no, I cannot. It's completely almost pointless to hand over to me, but I'll give it a best crack.
Well, I see a screen, so if you want me to hang on.
Yes, I think Forthy, you'd better hang on unless Ben wants to come back on and do some
Channel 7's just gone out as well. So
things are going fabulous.
It's absolute carnage out there.
In the 1930s, the BBC used to commentate off telexes.
By telegram, yes.
And they used to have a block of wood that they'd make a sound with.
I'll find a pencil to tap my desk with.
So, before I go, can I just suggest that it's a great opportunity to catch up on tweets, which are 20 minutes back for various reasons. And I'm happy to do that or hand over to whoever is on tweets now. I'm sorry, I haven't even got that up. Who's supposed to be doing... Oh, well, there you go, Ben. I was going to go from 23 minutes ago with Mog.
Well, it's actually Jason who's supposed to be doing social media messages, but he doesn't appear to be here.
Oh,
Jason is here. He's right here.
He's
He's
here. Well, I'll bugger off and let you sort it out. I know everything's pretty chaotic today. I'm sorry about that.
Well, I'll disappear too, but just give me the word if you need me back again if Channel 7 comes back up. So
Message Gares his final remarks saying, gratuitous advice of the day, do not upgrade to Windows 11. That is all. Snagermeister says, Schadenfreude. Grand Theft R2 says, incredibly thoughtless of both teams to play like this. I am sober, had a coffee at 5:30 and napped until 9:30 in preparation for this.
Is the feed... Hang on, is the feed back?
hello.
Is this the feed?
Oh no. No, that's...
No, it looks like it might be, actually. I think it's
It might
back.
be? Yeah.
Yes, we've got one angle from sort of
We have
third
vision.
man kind of area, but Josh Butler has just defended a ball from, I believe, Josh Hazelwood straight back down the track. This appears to be, I don't know, found footage of the first test between England and Australia. Someone's got a hand cam in the crowd.
Yeah, someone's got their iPhone out down at down in the concourse.
I was bashing BT and Fox all of yesterday, and clearly out of spite, they've cut us off here in the UK.
Well, there's a global blackout because Channel 7's just showing the highlights thus far. They don't seem to have.
This appears
live
to be
vision
live
either.
pictures as Josh Butler looks like he's inside edge one onto pad. It's looped towards Gully, but fallen well short of him, and there is no run. England, as the little scoreboard in the corner is telling us, currently 250 for 5. We have no idea how many balls have gone in this over or anything like that. As Messi Jez has put it, this is Brisbane unplugged. And here we are. Great time to come on and do ball-by-ball commentary is Josh Butler facing up to Hazelwood, who's in again. Now a laggy feed, but Butler has defended that, and there will be no run. And that is the end of the over, as the movement of Alex Carey is telling me. Stokes walking down the track to have a little chat with Butler. England 255, and we'll crack on with some of those tweets.
Matthew Cullen says, sharing guerrilla commentary with my friend Mo. Would love a shout out for him, so hello Mo. And the session has not gone well so far. Not for anybody, I don't think. Batsmen, administrators, broadcasters. And Peter Jones says, I'm glad I didn't go too early on a double espresso. And Warren says, has the Aussies come up with excellent plans for England batters, or are they just shit? I think we are more of the latter opinion at the moment.
Well, I think Lyon was very smart to Milan earlier on. He was bowling just where he wanted to, which maybe wasn't always the case yesterday.
Stokes facing up to, I have no idea who's bowling, and he leaves that one
This
from someone of
Stark,
indeterminate
I
pace.
think.
No, it's Stark. We're assuming it's not Nathan Lyon, given the height it's just gone past Ben Stokes. Now, Ben, as Knuckle said, you are making your debut.
Well, the trouble with that, Jacob, is that I made my debut yesterday.
Oh, well, Knuckle was just being forgetful.
Knuckle wasn't listening, or I'm just very unmemorable. But sure, I'll make
We've got a
debut.
treasure trove of
Always
Aussies on, but it's my first time with you, and it's lovely to meet you. I'm now no longer the new kid on the block, and it's deeply depressing. I'm beginning to feel old.
It's great to be with you
Good,
in these
good.
quite unique circumstances too. It's a bit novel.
Very odd, isn't it? As Stokes,
Ooh,
cops
that's a
one
good
on the
ball.
glove,
Ooh,
it looks
got
like,
it.
and it's popped down towards third man. I think it's gone for 4. I think.
Looks like I think they've got a single there.
It was a very lax single, but Ben Stokes has got one up around the handle of his bat from Mitchell Stark, and just opening and closing his hand in a little bit of pain, and I have no idea. The scoreboard isn't changing. BT are doing the best that they can.
It's so. Hang on.
For once, it's not BT's fault. I was going on about the graphics yesterday and about how we kept losing them. The scorecard is right. Thank you, Knuckle. But yeah, they just haven't updated it with what that was, because it hasn't changed to 251 or 254 for whichever that last.
Well, it's Butler on strike, so it was a single.
Yeah, it is a single, so it should be 251 for 5 as Butler faces up to Stark, who we assume is left arm over the wicket to him, but we have absolutely no idea. His little trademark shake of the shoulder as that's defended out towards, I think, cover. Again, we have a picture of just Josh Butler and just him at the crease. We can't see where the ball's going, we can't see who's bowling. But other than that, what do we think so far, Ben?
As an Australian, I started the day fairly pessimistic. I could easily see Root and Milan really digging in and going on for a very long time, but the Australians came out with a bit more energy. Lyon much improved, and it's swung again.
As Butler clips that one away off his legs, and I think that'll just be through for a single. Yes, it will. But a good shot from Butler.
It's swung again in Australia's favour, but I think it should be noted Stokes and Butler at the crease. Chris Wokes still in the hutch. England not vanquished yet, I would say. Australia's still got to do the hard work to get another 5 wickets. And look, both of these guys are capable of big hundreds. So it's
indeed
a little in favour of Australia, but England.
As we can now see Mitchell Stark, but not Ben Stokes at the other end. But the camera is panning, and Stokes appears to have left that one passes off stump, and there's no run. I don't know if anyone's said it yet. I will be the first to say it if they haven't. I'm actually going to say that was pretty poor from Joe Root, the way he got out. He did not need to play that, and he needs to look back on that and go, what was I trying to achieve with that shot? It was neither one nor t'other in terms of defence or actually playing at the ball. He just pushed it a little bit and feathered it through, and I think that was just bad batting from the England captain.
It's the classic batsman error, isn't it? Just letting your instinct to want to hit the ball override your sense as a batsman.
As Stark
and just poking
in hard again to Stokes, who again leaves well. Knackle has chimed in, calling this the Blair Pitch Project. Perhaps we can start a contest on our social media feeds for who can caption this frankly absurd situation the best, because I've certainly not seen anything like this, and all I will say is that this has never happened when Sky have been doing the feed, but that's all I'm going to say. I just love Atherton Hussain. So Jason, let's get some tweets in.
Jane Francis says, hello, was looking forward to a night of compelling test cricket as I do some badly needed pre-holiday tidying and sorting. Oops. And then we have Jew saying both of them were poor shots. That's presumably the last 2 dismissals. Here comes Hazelwood,
and he's left alone by Butler. Knackle is just informing us as well that the reason for this problem is that in typical Australian summer style, there has been a power cut at the Gabba, and so all the TV equipment, all the feeds around the world have gone down, and so we are now watching kind of video style early days of YouTube Test match cricket. As Butler squares up to Hazelwood. They're now changing the scoreboard every over as Butler defends that one. Oh, it's edged and it's gone through the slips, and that'll run away for 4. Partial power outage apparently, says Knackle, evidently, but the broadcast has been effective.
Well, of course, this test taking place in Queensland, which is the only state in Australia that still uses the hand-cranked method of electricity distribution. So there's quite a common problem in Brisbane.
What my favourite thing about this so far is that anyone who's been watching the test so far will know that they do not have RTS or SNCO.
No.
And the reason for this is Butler is facing up to Hazelwood and clips that one into the leg side, but there'll be no run. The reason for this is because the maintenance man who can fix the SNCO, which has broken for some reason, is not allowed into Queensland due to COVID regulations and can get it fixed, but only after 14 days of hard quarantine.
So after 14 days, we'll find out how many edges there were.
Indeed. By which time we'll be in Melbourne or something, and maybe it'll break there, and he'll be allowed into New South Wales. Well, it's Victoria, isn't it, Melbourne? I have no idea.
Yes.
My Australian geography is shocking. As Butler defends Hazelwood out and towards the offside, and there's no run.
Mike Taylor says, hello from Marseille. Pretty decent of the England batters to tumble early, so we can all get a decent night's sleep. If I wake up tomorrow to find we've pulled the rabbit out of the hat, I don't know whether to laugh or cry. I think it's also pretty decent.
Cry is always the answer.
Decent of them to spare the blushes of the local broadcaster of not having a generator on site.
Getting a great sense of the loneliness of the life of a batter here, focusing in just on him.
It's almost art house, isn't it? As Butler drives that one, and we have no idea where that's gone or what happened.
He was beaten. Channel 7
beaten.
seems to have just returned. He was beaten outside off stump there by Hazelwood.
Thank you very much, Ben. Hopefully that will herald the re-arrival of BT and Fox
With
Sports'
any luck.
insipid Australian commentary. Back on Fox as well, says Ian. So surely...
Oh, well, it's got to come back to BT then.
We should get some BT feed soon. England currently 256 for 5. Hazelwood bowling to Butler. Someone just walked in front of the camera, which is an unforeseen problem. As Butler edged that behind?
He's edged it to somewhere.
Is it gone?
It's... No. It's gone for 4.
Hey!
Edged it through the slips for 4.
Edged through the slips for 4 from Josh Butler. That takes him to some number. And Ben Stokes is also currently on a number of runs. And England are 256 for 5. 260 for 5 now, trailing by just 18. Butler on 17, Stokes on 14, apparently.
Yep, and Peter Jones says, I love Test cricket, but sometimes it hurts. Snarger says, I decided to pull an all-nighter, hoping England would fold before lunch. And Gogo says, my computer is also fucking up. Zombie apocalypse tomorrow. Quids in.
Well, at least if there's a zombie apocalypse, we come away with a draw, as Ben Stokes leaves that outside the off stump from Mitchell Stark.
Warren says, okay, the technical joys of the 2021 Ashes continue. Get out the dice for the dice cricket.
Now, actually, here's a question, a la India, and a question for maybe the BCCI. If there is a zombie apocalypse, is it a cancelled test or an abandoned test?
I'm sure Twitter will tell us when we get round to finding out about it in a couple of hours' time.
Indeed.
Grand Theft Auto says, one good thing about T20, Butler is more used to facing a new ball, albeit a white one with the fielding restrictions.
I don't know whether that's... I don't know how different it is for him. You assume it's a bit trickier against the red ball, or he'd be opening in tests as well.
As Stokes looks like he's had a fiddle at that, but thankfully for us has missed it. And has he missed it?
He's just deflected that off to point. We have Fox is back on, but has a camera only from one end. So from one over we get behind the bowler's arm, the other over we get from behind the batsman's head.
You see, I didn't have to pay 35 quid to watch the England Lions match.
Yeah.
From one end. This is ridiculous.
This is old school. This is like watching a game from the 70s, actually, where they had one fixed camera high above. You watched everything from the same angle.
As Stokes drives, and I think attractively, but Ben will now inform me.
No, he drives attractively, but misses the ball.
Oh, wonderful. the problem is with this very low-level kind of fan cam is that with Mitchell Stark bowling 150 km/h thunderbolts, you can't actually see the ball. You have no idea if it's come off the bat or not.
Just FYI, it is an attacking field. We have 3 slips and a gully. We have a cover point, a mid-off, and then we have a black screen. We're gone again.
Not the BBC.
Oh, boy.
The BBC had nothing to do with this. The BT graphics have come back up. as Stokes gets one towards his hip and tucks it into the leg side, and Butler turns down a run, which would have been quite a tight one. So we have the score back. It's 260 for 5. Butler 17 from 27. Stokes 14 from 42. These are the Fox graphics. Stark 1 for 67 in the middle of his 17th over. There's 2 balls to go of the 87th. But we still only have this slightly odd camera angle.
Yeah,
But,
we're watching from deep cover at the moment.
Yeah,
Deep extra cover.
it's a bit awkward and unusual. They've got a sort of wide shot at the moment that sometimes they zoom in and it's all very shaky cam. Art house stuff. But in comes Stark to Stokes, who defends at that one. Looks like it squirted off the outside half of his bat towards point. Nathal is informing us on the situation, and he says, imagine the bit in Jurassic Park where they boot up every system individually. That's the broadcast truck at the moment.
We have again the shot from behind the slip cordon. Actually, it's a high shot, atop the grandstand. Looks like.
Well, between us, Ben, we can
figuring
provide
it
some
out.
fairly comprehensive ball by
zoom in a
ball
little.
coverage.
Is Stark into Stokes, and that is tucked to square leg for no run.
I actually saw that one. Well, hey.
Oh, good.
Further to his Jurassic Park reference, Nathal expects the next step of this process is for Kerry O'Keefe to be attacked by a raptor. At least then he might stop talking.
Various people across various territories are telling us that the feed is down. Jane Francis says Willow's down in the US. Taiping Shang says the TV rights in Hong Kong have gone down as well. So we're all taking the same feed, I imagine. Dave Wood says, I've watched an entire day's play on teletext in the past. And Jay Grover says, this is the way the world ends.
It seems to be drinks at the moment, and the umpires have also just signalled for the big kind of stamper thing, which is used to deal with footmarks.
I think they're going to have a long break now, so I'll spin through a few more. Leah says Ronald Reagan used to do radio comments from the Telegraph for the clubs in California with a shellac record with crowd noise. Have you ever seen one of the great baseball films, Bull Durham? There's a lot of that in that as well. Hombre Nuevo says all feeds are down, it's the end of days. Well, at least if we recorded it as a draw, unless they bring in Duckworth Lewis and that sinks us.
Well, this could bring down the Queensland government.
Paul Howarth, question for you, Ben. He says, what's the second debut called, Ben?
Day 2.
Yeah, a second debut.
I guess it's a... No, I'm trying to think of a clever pun, but I'm coming up blank, much like
It's got to be a day 2, surely.
A day 2?
Yeah,
that sounds like day 2.
That's the winner,
day 4.
Your day 2 on day 4.
Grand Theft Auto 2 says, Fox's feed is currently about as reliable and trustworthy as their journalism. James says, can we move the rest of this game match to Hobart if they have working TV cameras?
As the Bear rejoins us. Hello, Bear. I don't know if he has a mic. I don't think he does, but... Oh, he does. Hello, Bear.
You must be loving this, Bear. For once, it's not your problem.
It's not my problem. It's mayhem, isn't it? I was just listening. They've lost power or something. There's no backup generator.
Oh,
not particularly good for an international.
Queensland Hospital.
Well, they've lost it again. It looks like they had it back for a second there, and then it went again.
We're getting some great pictures of the Australians having drinks. What's it called? The spider cam seems to be working because it's circling slowly around them. This is on Fox.
Have you had any pictures for the last half hour?
From 20 feet in the air.
If the spider's cam working, why can't we see the feed?
I don't know. Maybe they just maybe the BT analysts on the couch are just they're raiding their socks off, so they're keeping them on.
Anyway, I'll crack on with some more tweets.
Good to know. DRS is also down. Sorry.
Yeah, DRS is completely cut out, despite not having Snicko because of COVID regulations, meaning the the engineer can't get there. It looks like the feed is back, at least some of it. There's the kind of boundary cam which skirts round and things like that. So hopefully we'll have some better feed. But now apparently DRS entirely is also down. So if the Australian home umpires want to make a dodgy decision, well,
now's their chance.
Careful.
there was
Paul Rifle would never.
Of intentional cheating, although maybe in the 80s, but who knows. Yeah, so we're getting bits back. There's now shots of the stormtroopers in the crowd. I wish they'd show us the cricket instead. We've got some graphics back. Maybe we are back in business just as my spell is coming into its last 10 minutes. So this has been fabulous. But I am back later. This is not me done for the day, and I'm sure the rest of us will be as well, to get our fair crack at the feed. It looks like we've got it back now. I can see Josh Hazelwood. He's smiling. Some might even say slightly smug face.
I imagine they're totally oblivious, apart from the fact they've just been told that DRS is off.
They might not even have been told. You never know. I think Ben Stokes wasn't told about his no ball, so it just kind of wasn't mentioned. As Hazelwood, we definitely have the feedback now, and he's into Butler, and he's driven backward of point, and that will beat Nathan Lyon and run away for 4. Josh Butler on the counter-attack here, 25 from 29 deliveries, and well, hopefully we can start to give us some of the fireworks that he gave us yesterday.
He's scoring mostly off the outside edge thus far, but sooner or later he's going to find the middle, would be the fear.
Just as an update for everyone, it is 264 for 5 at the start of this, the 88th over, as Hazelwood is into Butler again, who defends resolutely back down the pitch. So just a full recap: 88th over, 264 for 5, or the other way around if you're Australian. Butler 21 from 29, Stokes 14 from 44, Hazelwood none for 25 in his 11th over. We are live from the Gabba, guerrilla cricket all through the night, and completely reliant on some dodgy technical feed, but hopefully it'll all be fine. Hazelwood turns at the top of his run-up and is jogging in, and that's clipped off the hip by Butler, and will run down towards fine leg. I think that's Mitchell Stark down there, and they'll just get a single. What do we think was going on with Hazelwood, lads? He's bowling now, but this is only his second over, and he wasn't bowling pretty much all of yesterday. He only bowled 8 over.
It's quite mysterious, because he stayed out on the field, so obviously he was expected to be fit to bowl, but he didn't, and given how well England was going, it seems very strange that Cummins would just have been, saving him for later. So I still don't know.
As Stokes squares up to Hazelwood, who's over the wicket to the left-handed Stokes, and he defends back down the pitch. Knackle has just informed us that in the 5.5 overs that we lost to the bad feed, England scored 19 runs, which is, for a new partnership in against a new ball, that's a pretty decent rate. Just
all right.
Tick over 3. Pretty good. And it's Ben Stokes, 14 from 45. He's probably got his eye in now, we hope. And Butler, I mean, this pitch hasn't got too much in it, so they could give a fair crack at batting here. As Hazelwood in again, Stokes walking down to him, but then just defending.
That's an interesting.
He's done it a lot. He's done it against
move.
the West Indies last summer, last summer he did it a lot against the West Indies, walking down to the fast bowlers. It reminds me of what Pujara did to Nathan Lyon, consistently trotting down the pitch and then just playing a forward defensive, which is one of my favourite shots, because you usually see a Rishabh Pant style massive swing and they either get a 6 or get stumped. But Pujara
That's what I expected from
straight down.
I expected Stokes to have a big swing when I saw him advancing, but just a classic forward defence.
And he leaves the last ball of the over alone outside the off stump. England 265 for 5, and Jason, let's get some tweets.
Warren says, can someone unplug the Ashes 2021 series and plug it back in again?
I think they did.
Matt Slocum says, I'm loving this, and Mayank says, we need to sign a petition demanding we get Channel 7's feed because Fox is SHITE. You've got some love from Jay Grover, Ben, Samoa and Panda Podgy must go into Audible books. His voice has calmed my computer feed rage right down.
Oh.
And
Cummins is on to bowl. The captain bringing himself on, and I think we'll jingle him up.
Don't call it a comeback. He was never really here. He played a couple of tests and then disappeared. His body broke down like a balloon. But he's back now, taking wickets. Watch the ladies swoon. Pat's gonna knock you out. Pat Collins gonna knock you out.
That's quite a funky one, as we're hearing that DRS is back on now, messages informing us. As Cummins in to Butler, who defends into the leg side, and no run will be had. I think this will be the last over of our little spell, but Ben, you're staying on. One more after this, is Bear saying? One more after this, says Bear. So maybe we'll get one more, that will be nice. It's with some actual TV coverage. It's an interesting game so far. I think England are probably on the way to a loss, but not an innings loss, and this is a bit of resoluteness which we had hoped for from them. As Butler clips that behind square on the leg side down towards fine leg, and they'll just get through for a single.
Well, this is a chance for Butler and Stokes, not for the first time, to pull off a spectacular rescue, isn't it? Because there's still scope. There's still scope for a big partnership. Could really put Australia under pressure, and Australia would, well, certainly as an Australian fan, I would feel very nervous having to chase 200 on the last day, just from a lifetime's experience, really.
And I mean, they're now 8.2 overs into the new ball, looking fairly set as Stokes defends that one nicely. And Butler has sort of decided in this series to play how we as England fans have always wanted him to play, in the kind of Gilchrist mould of get set and then keep the scoring going, keep it, and don't try and be too timid and play like a Dom Sibley Test match cricketer and poke at one outside off stump.
Well, you got to, obviously there's adjustments to be made between white ball cricket and red ball cricket, but I don't think a batsman needs to change his essential nature, and Butler's essential nature is attack.
Oh, and that's popped up on Stokes. They've got him, I think. That steep bounce from Pat Cummins and caught the glove of Ben Stokes. That is a rich snorter. And just as I said he got set, commentators curse. Stokes has gone for 14, England 266 to 6. There's not a lot he could have done about that.
Well, you never set against balls like that. That's just kicked up off a length, and nothing to prepare you. He's done his best. He was completely discombobulated. Turned around, turned his head, spun. No idea where it went. Almost off the back of the bat, I think. Flew to gully. Just a typical Cummins partnership breaker ball, that.
Okay, so we will have a change at the end of this over now with this little wicket break, but that's unfortunate. Ben Stokes, the first innings, another one from Cummins raising steeply and catching the edge of his bat. Maybe one he could have left, but it was hard. That one, I mean, it was on leg stump.
It was off the handle.
Yeah, it was on leg stump, and it wasn't a half volley, but it was almost there, and it's just popped up, caught the handle of his bat and gone to gully. So there's just nothing you can do there. That is really unfortunate, as Chris Woke is the next man in. And now we've been talking about Butler, this is his time, really.
Absolutely.
We'll just jingle up Woke.
Actually, it wasn't off the handle, it was off the shoulder of the bat there from Stokes. So same difference. But he had no idea about it, and understandably so, because it was it just spat off the pitch at him.
As Wokes is in, he is a man with a Test 100, I believe, Chris Wokes, and can bat. He loves a drive.
It's a good batter, Chris Wokes. Very more than useful, more than a tail ender, certainly.
Absolutely. I mean, call me hopeful, but a kind of quick. Well, not even. It doesn't even have to be quick. A sort of 30, 40, 50 from him, and let Butler do some work at the other end, play his natural game, and attack as Travis Head did. That would put England in a very, very good situation. Robinson next to come. He can bat, although he didn't show it in the last innings. But then again, no one did. As Wokes defends a ball which probably could have left, but Cummins making him play, and that's gone into the leg side. And 266 for 6. England. They're not currently showing how much they're trailing by, but I think it's in the region of about 13.
Yes.
Trail by 12. I was almost spot on.
Very well done.
I should enter the GPL today. And so should all of you. Everyone please enter the GPL. If you guess the score, you get a nice big pot of money. As the final ball of the over is a short one from Cummins, ducked under by Wokes at the end of the 89th over. England 266 for 6, and we will change over and leaving you with Andrew, Ben, and the Bear.
Indeed. Afternoon, boys. It's the bloody hope that kills, man. It's the hope that kills.
Indeed, it is. G'day, Bear. G'day, Ben. In terms of the hope that kills, it's also the hope of being able to view this game in any sort of decent condition. I've got some feed on my TV, and then the one that I'm watching to call off. Sometimes you see the bowler run in, and then all of a sudden you just see the ball trickling away from the batter. So I'm going to have an absolute, have my best crack at this ball-by-ball caper, and we'll see how we go.
You're probably best doing it off the feed. Is the feed you've got ahead or behind us?
Behind. So about
man.
7
You're in
seconds
Australia. You're
behind.
near the bloody. You're there.
I know.
Weird.
So I'm now seeing Hazelwood coming in very slowly to bowl, and this one is defended off the back foot by Butler. Well, I'm also very, very hungover, so this is.
It's all right. We all are, man.
My eyes.
Just want to say I'm not hungover.
I mean, the problem here is I stay up all night, so I try not to get too pissed.
It's the middle of the night. You can't be hungover yet.
Well,
you're just
the thing is, I start quick and then I calm down later because it's midnight here. He's just like, nah.
Yeah.
Hazelwood on his way in again to Butler, and this one again defended it into the leg side, no run.
I have to say, there were two scenarios we talked about at the beginning, and this was the nightmare one basically. I mean, if England had got in and those two had carried on, seen through the new. Weirdly, the new ball was only taking 1 wicket, and the old ball took 3. But you've got to get out there, get into the game, and then they could have changed it around. But this was a foreseeable scenario as an England supporter.
Well, we have
Hazelwood on his way in again. And left alone outside the off stump. I was going to say, it was interesting that Joe Root went out, I think it was in maybe the 6th over of the day. He had only faced 6 deliveries by that time.
Well, that was the thing. He's so busy. He's very good at getting that single. So he'd face the ball, get a single, and then not be on strike. He does that, to be fair. He does that a lot. He's a very good and quick scorer at test level. But sometimes, as you say, it doesn't really help. You actually haven't faced that many balls.
Hazelwood on his way in again to Butler. And something happened, but
he left it alone. Well, he fenced it.
Beaten outside off there.
Beaten outside off on my screen just there.
Yeah,
That was a good ball. Probably was not a good one to miss.
He didn't need to play at it really, but he did.
That's a good carry through to Carey.
Yeah, this pitch has offered. I mean, this is the one thing. I mean, the actual joy of watching cricket in Australia is that you do get carry out there. I mean, even here it seems and it does all this sort of stuff, but there's never great carry in England.
Hazelwood coming in again to Butler. And that one defended. That one didn't quite get up. So we saw yesterday the pitch was playing a few little tricks, not much, but there was a little bit of an inconsistent bounce, and it's still doing that. Cameron Green, I think, is the one player who would wish that the ball had have carried a little bit more when he left that one from Robinson.
Yeah, one of the few.
Could have done with some bounce.
Yeah, the few balls that actually would have hit the stuff, and it did.
Last ball of the 90th over, and this one is just pushed into the offside by Butler. 6 for 266. Ben, have we got some tweets come through?
We have some tweets. We have some, as you might expect, some cheery tweets from England supporters, such as Linux Lee, who tweets, "Get effed, England, get absolutely effed." She's typing effed, I'm not censoring her. "I got up for this after yesterday, and now I sit here at 2 a.m, 3 cups of coffee in, you absolute muppets."
Get the whiskey, get the whiskey, it'll do you better.
Yeah. And another tweet from Jay Grover, "I'm not so bothered by my current low-level hangover, I'm worried about what will happen when I have to reverse my sleep patterns tomorrow. Meh, this is why God created Zopiclone." Okay, that's new one. Maybe I should look into that. But yeah, that's the killer, the sleep patterns.
Well, it is. You guys are all right, but this is exactly it. I got after this one.
Cummins is back on.
Yes. So they've gone from lots of replays. So Cummins in, and this one cuts Wokes in half through to Carey. There's a consideration of a DRS review here.
Well, I don't know how that missed. It looked to me like that's passed through the stumps.
I'm not sure if you can review that if the ball goes between middle and off, and the ball bail doesn't come off.
It's hit the top of his pad. That's
they
a good
thought it was
decision.
might have been caught behind, although the appeal wasn't that great. It's flicked the thigh. It was very close to the top of the stumps, painfully close.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Hardly any DRS reviews because mostly they go for LBW decisions, don't they?
This next one from Cummins is pushed into the offside by Wokes. He's pushed that one slightly with his bat slightly away from his body. He's got to be careful doing that because a little nibble away from him off the deck, and he'll be heading back to the sheds.
Indeed, but that's the thing. If nothing's really hitting the stumps because it's so bouncy, it's amazing how few DRS decisions there are. You go to other parts of the world and everything that hits the pads, everyone's like, possible, but here, nah.
Yeah, that last one they just showed was going well over the stumps as Cummins comes in again. And this one is edged but down into the gully region. Chris Wokes has got to stop playing away from his body.
Yeah. He has only faced 5 balls. He's not a bad bat, Chris Wokes. He's very technically correct. I don't think he's that scared of the short ball. And, if he gets in, he has got a test ton.
Yeah, 137 knot. I think he averages 27 in tests, 30 in first class. So very handy with the willow. Cummins in again. This one down the leg side, and is it taken by Carey? It is, but there's no bat on it. Thought he was almost burgled down the leg side there.
And that was disappointing thing about Hamid yesterday, actually. It was actually miles away from the bat, wasn't it? It looked close from the front on, but I don't think it was anywhere near it. It's always annoying to get strangled down the leg side, and Hamid looked quite good yesterday, I thought, and then just didn't get enough on it, or should have left it, one or the other.
Cummins in again to Wokes, who pushes this one down through the gully. They're going to get runs here. It's running away towards the boundary. Cameron Green is chasing after it, and they will just get the single.
As Aussies, what would you...
No, they come back for 2, sorry.
What would you fear if England got a lead? Where would you, where's your cut-off that you feel comfortable?
I would fear anything over... Sorry, go. You go, Dono.
I was going to say, I think it depends on how old you are and whether you experience the mid-90s when anything like in the low 100 to 120 was... We had memories of Australia not being able to get those scores. Whereas if you're a little bit younger than us, you'd go, oh, well, we can get 250, it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would fear anything over 150, but maybe I'm being a little pessimistic. I certainly think, 250 would not be out of reach, but it would make me very nervous and I would not have a lot of confidence.
I think England have to get 250 ahead. I mean, maybe that's just because it's the part of the world it's in. In other places you think if you can get 120 lead, but here on this, it feels like 250 would not necessarily be enough, but pressure comes from taking early wickets and all that kind of stuff.
The pitch is playing the odd trick.
Yeah, but not great.
Some jumping, some shooting. Not terribly difficult, but
presumably it gets worse as time goes on. But that means England batting time, getting it in tomorrow.
So we've got Josh Hazlewood coming in to bowl to Joss Butler, and this first one is outside the other. He's got the edge and he's taken.
Fuck
See you later,
off!
pal.
Just fuck off!
And today's Botham has
250 ahead.
They're certainly nowhere near that. There still could be an innings defeat, boys. Don't you worry.
Hit the deck, moved away, straight through to Caring, easily taken. Brilliant bowl in there by Josh Hazlewood. This is why he wasn't bowling in the last session last night. Get him ready so that he can just run through England this morning. Make sure that the crowd's able to come in.
Bullshit. There's still no reason why I shouldn't have bowled last night. That was just very fucking weird, I have to say.
It was.
It was odd, man.
It's paid off.
Yeah. Well, he still could have bowled this spell this morning. He had a whole bloody night between it. He's only going to bowl 4 or 5 overs more last night, but it was kind of weird.
He should have bowled more yesterday if he was fit. Definitely. There's incidentally quite an apt tweet just before that dismissal was from Peter Jones. Is it bad that I kind of want Australia to euthanise my hopes so I can go to bed without feeling guilty? You probably go to bed now, Peter.
There's a little bit of that.
Although Ollie Robinson, who knows?
Nah.
We've also got a tweet from Jay Grover who's offering to give me drug advice. So
I don't know if you want to take that. It'll be
he says you could. He says you could possibly help me out too, Bear.
Well, I probably could, but I'm not sure you want our advice. That's the thing. The next man in, I'm going to play our jingle, boys. It's this guy.
Indeed, it is Ollie.
Who does those jingles? They're very good.
We have a number of jinglers. 2 of them Australian. One's in sort of out near the Great Lakes in America, expat Aussie. One's in Melbourne, Mog. After this ball,
Hazlewood coming in now to Robinson, who defends into the leg side. I just wanted to the wicket ball. I mentioned last over how Chris Wokes was playing with his bat away from his body. Joss Butler decided that was a good idea when all evidence suggested that it wasn't. There's just no way that he should have edged that.
No,
just leave it alone or get your body across.
And I have to say, boys, this is a perennial conversation on this channel because England are very bad at following the ball. Personally, we all blame bloody Trevor Bayliss and the one-day international fucking supremacy. Oh dear.
I'm going to wait till I see it on my screen because it didn't come up on the one that I'm watching. Hazlewood in now, and that one beats the outside edge. Got a little bit of extra lift. He's getting some some good movement off the deck here, Hazelwood. England's still behind by 10 runs, 7 for 268. What's going to come first? The 3 wickets required for Australia to get an innings victory, or the 11 runs to require Australia to bat again?
Evens. I'll give you evens on that.
I think Wokes has to start swinging.
Wokes, I don't think will swing. He's not that kind of player. Roberts has first class ton or 2. I'm not even sure.
Well, don't give up yet, then.
Yeah, you give up. You're English. We're English.
Hazelwood into Robinson, and this one is angled down into the gully. They'll get a single. Robinson off the mark. England onto 7 for 269.
I mean, I don't know if you guys have that conversation in Australia, but I mean, you see the way that players bat now that, T20 and ODIs are sort of everywhere. The players are all playing it all the time, and the need to constantly go at the ball. And it seeps into Test match cricket.
No, I think that's a universal complaint around the world.
I'm not sure it's a bad thing because I think it moves the games on quicker.
Sure,
but, I mean, it makes you sort of scream at batsmen and stuff. Why are you playing at that?
But I think the other part of that is if you watch Joe Root bat, he uses a lot of the angles quite nicely. So the one-way glide, as it used to be called. But you've got to be a Joe Root type to be able to do that and get away with it, as Hazelwood is in again. This one is pushed into the offside. It's going to run all the way down to the boundary for 4. Chris Wokes, well played.
Indeed.
Like that.
1, 2, 3, 4. He's a very correct batsman. He's got a high elbow, good drives, all that. He's quite nice. But still.
That was just a nice little push through the covers. So using the extra bounce that Hazelwood gets and just leaning on that ball was very nice by Chris Wokes. Now, Hazelwood coming in the last ball of the 92nd over. Wokes awaits. And there's no run there, and I don't know what happened because, again, my feed jumped. It was left alone outside the off stump. That one decked back in. So Hazelwood getting the ball to move both ways off the pitch. 7 for 273. England trail by 5 runs.
You got tweets there? I just need to go to the loo.
We do. Jay Grover taking note of the discussion about what target Australia might want to chase. Says, did Dono just complain about Australia's form in the mid-90s? For F's sake, try being English at the time. Effing humble brag, he says.
Look, to be fair, we're probably just talking about one game against South Africa, and they're just stuck in our minds.
There were a few. I mean, England knocked us off with a very low target in '93 in a dead rubber, admittedly, but Australia was only chasing 120, and they took us down. And
what was the West Indies one? The West Indies in Adelaide, where Australia lost.
That was a chase of 100. It was 170, 180 odd, I think. Still pretty low. And of course, Australia should have lost that by a lot more than 1 run because they fell apart in the top order. Warren tweets, "Can they turn off the electric again?" So I'm guessing Warren's an Englishman.
Cummins in bowls a short ball to Robinson, who just ducks under that one with no worries.
And Peter Jones has said night. So
night, Peter.
I'm glad he's getting his rest.
It is, I think, coming up to 1:30 in the morning in the UK. So Cummins again in. This one jumps and gets the edge, but it goes to ground, down to the gully. Robinson
keeps getting those balls to jump, Cummins, doesn't he?
Yeah. Does.
He's bowling well today. And that was the thing yesterday. I think Australia, kind of after they didn't get the follow-through wickets, and England actually got on top. I think heads went down a little bit, and England were able to capitalise. It's just they got themselves in such a shit state after the first innings.
Cummins in again to Robinson, and this one meets the outside edge. Carey holds the ball up in I wouldn't say a half appeal, maybe a quarter appeal, a 10% appeal. He was the only one that had any sort of interest.
Sort of,
Maybe
a sort of moral victory.
Did you see what he did there? He was expecting the bouncer. That's really poor. I'm sorry.
Yeah, he was starting to duck, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was starting to duck. You've got to play what's coming at you. Fuck it, stick it. If he's going to bat like that, he's got to go number. You can't be premeditating that badly.
Cummins on his way in again to Robinson. And again, I'm going to wait until I see it on my feed. This one is the short ball, and he wasn't expecting that and just got underneath that. I can also tell you that Nick Maddinson has just boshed Dom Bess for a 6 back over his head. Bess has 1 for 110 as Australia A, 2 for 223.
Bess is not the solution. I'll tell you that, boys.
No.
He's undercooked. I mean, after this. Oh, God almighty.
Cummins in again to Robinson, and that one beats him. It's cut him in half, and there's another appeal by Alex Carey. Maybe he's just going, I caught it. Look, everyone, happy? Yes, I caught it.
Well, I mean, it seems unfair that a ball like that didn't get a wicket.
Well, exactly. Those do get reviewed quite often, but they often are missing the inside edge.
Another one off the fly. Another one that
decked in.
Another one that makes you think the stumps must be holographic.
Yeah, nah, it's the bounce, isn't it? It's clearly Evans going for time. It's a cracking ball.
But I think
Robinson again. This one, he actually defends. Well done, Ollie. Got back to it. Love it. That's a victory, moral victory. End of the over, 7 for 273.
Well, I think Alex Carey is the typical keeper. He'll hold the ball up when he believes that the bowler deserves a wicket.
Yeah, there's those things that when it goes between
umpire, come on.
Well, when it goes between bat and pad on the inside edge, you want to appeal anyway because you don't really know, but
yeah.
there's a chance. Got any tweets?
Well, we have one from Farong. Come on, England, do Bangladesh proud and lose by an innings after a reasonable second innings. That's. I suppose Bangladesh would be proud of England if they did that.
Yeah.
If they're following along.
It'll be Josh Hazlewood with the ball. Chris Wokes to face up. England still trailing by 5 runs. And I'm going to wait for, again, my feed. This one is edged into the slip cordon, but on the bounce to Cameron Green there. So, Chris
Jay
Wokes.
Grover's got a request. Jay Grover tweets, I'm going to be totally screwed if this finishes at 3. Ben, quick read Goodnight Moon aloud and send me the recording. So it's nice. I'm already building a following here.
Yeah, cool. After this ball.
This ball from Hazlewood to Wokes, and he's defended into the leg side, no run.
England have got a big problem with the spinner. Leach is... Leach doesn't get enough play in England. He is probably the best spinner, but he's a left armer, and you've got 7 lefties in the top. 5 out of 7, the top 7 are lefties. As a left arm bowler, he doesn't like bowling to lefty. These wickets aren't massively conducive to spin, and Nathan Lyon has obviously grown up in Australia and learned. And I think you've got to drag your length back a bit and give it a little top spin, obviously. After this.
Hazlewood in to Wokes, and that one is defender pushed back down the pitch, no run. Yeah, I think you're right there about the use of the top spin. And anyone who's been watching and had the misfortune of listening to Shane Warne, one thing that he has said constantly over the last couple of years is that the off spinner needs someone in close on the offside, and that's one area where having the top spin, it means that you're more likely to then get something pop up off the bat or off the glove onto the offside
or bat
short.
pad or any of that stuff. I mean, that's the beauty of having a little bit of bounce.
Hazlewood on his way in again to Chris Wokes. So it's pushed into the leg side, and they're going to get the single. Well fielded there by Captain Cummins. He's really got to stop throwing himself around like that. We saw Mitchell Starc almost pop his shoulder out yesterday. I don't like having the the fast bowlers at mid-on and mid-off, especially if they're
When
diving
you're,
around
when
like
you're
that.
the captain, though, can't have the captain at fine leg.
No, that's true.
Put him at second slip.
Well, is he? Yeah, but is he a
He'd
slipper?
do brilliantly because he's Pat Cummins.
Would he?
Exactly.
Is he a slipper? That's the thing, you know. It's a specialist position.
Hazelwood in again to Robinson, and this one is defended down into the leg side. Much better by Robinson. Wasn't anticipating the short ball there.
I'm not sure whether Leach will get picked again.
Will they go with 4 seamers at Adelaide?
I think they probably will. I think. Well, I mean, if Australia are going to target Leach in the way that they have here, you know, it's not India. You're not going to get bloody inconsistent bounce and turn on, you know, first session of the first day. It's an attritional game in Australia, and so first innings it's going to be tricky if they target him like that.
Next one is a short ball to Robinson, who ducks under that one easily. End of the 94th over, 7 for 274, still 4 runs behind. Ben, do we have any tweets or social messages come through?
Neil Franklin has gone all Henry V. Come on, Wokes, you are the village green and the pub and the church and the post office. You are England. So if only Chris could hear you,
well,
his blood may be stirred. There's also there's a question on the YouTube comments asking me if I'm any relation to the former rugby league player Michael Pobji, and I can confirm that I am. He's a second or third cousin of mine.
There you go.
I'm not sure which.
There you go.
There we go. Family tree time here on Guerrilla Cricket. I can confirm
Genealogy.
that my relatives were convicts straight off the boat.
Damn
Someone
right.
Stole a
That's
dirty,
a badge of honour for an Australian.
Of course it is.
Stole a dirty pair of work boots from someone's front porch, and then came over, and they got to Australia, and they went, "Hang on a minute, you're not old enough for us to put into irons," so they just let him walk free, and he wandered for a couple of days, and here I am. And here's Pat Cummins coming in and bowling to Chris Wokes. This one's short and beats the outside edge. Carey takes that one above his head. Good ball there by Cummins.
I have to admit, there's a lot of programs over here on Discovery, like, you know, sort of Aussie Gold Miner and all that kind of stuff. And I always find it quite interesting. They're all out there in the depths of the Perth desert digging for gold and shit like that, and opals. And I think, it doesn't look that bad.
Cummins coming in, and this one's defended by Wokes into the offside. Much more comfortably played. Yeah, I'm not sure how much my relatives who saw the need to steal a pair of dirty work boots went and dug for gold or dug for anything. I think they were a little bit more crafty than that with their occupations.
No, that's fair enough. I like a little bit of a gamble, and I just think, the idea of that, just going out and buying a patch of land and striking it lucky.
Yeah.
This one from Cummins is pushed into the offside. They think of a run, but the ball went straight to Cameron Green, who threatened to throw down the stumps at both ends.
Of course, here in Australia, we look enviously towards England and wish we had, more castles and great battlefields.
Don't do that, man. We're in a state over here at the moment. We're a complete fool for a Prime Minister. And, and we've let a virus rip, funnily enough. Oh.
Next one from Cummins. Gets the outside edge through the vacant 4th slip down to the boundary for 4. So there's 3 slips and a gully.
And the scores are level.
Scores are level. Australia will bat again.
You have to bat again. We haven't lost by an innings.
There we.
How many do you think you have to chase? 30?
65.
Still not that optimistic, are you?
Nah. I've watched a lot of fucking England, man.
I think Australia should have put a 4th slip in.
The one thing I will say is,
go for the kill.
England were massively undercooked. A couple of top order getting big scores. I think this is good. You know, we'll go into the next test, and I imagine Broad and Anderson both play at Adelaide.
Cummins coming in now to Wokes. No run. Not sure what happened, but I'll tell you in a sec. That one was just pushed back down the pitch. Yeah, look, this is a good warm-up game for England. It's just unfortunate that it's a test.
Absolutely. That's the problem, isn't it? But, yeah, you know, Anderson Broad will, I think they're not the quickest, but they will row Australia, I think. You know, they might try and chat. Anderson now is a really fucking wily bowler, man.
They should both be playing now. Like, it's ridiculous. Cummins comes into Wokes. That one's short, and he tries to uppercut it, but misses, and it goes through to Carey. That was a fucking stupid shot to end the 95th over.
I believe that's me out.
Yeah, we're due for a change.
I'm stepping aside.
Yes, Ben and Bear, thank you very much.
Lovely. As always, a pleasure. May not see you tomorrow, but we'll see.
I don't think you will. But, yeah. Have fun, next group.
So I'm going to hang around. I'm going to shift chairs into the summariser role as Forthy and Messrs come in as well. Hello, gents.
Hello,
great job,
Ben.
Donna.
Donna, I've got to congratulate you on a superb session, notwithstanding an incredible hangover. I've qualified as a first-rate gorilla, man.
Thank you. I've been pounding down a lot of water just to try to get me through. I was at a wonderful bar in Melbourne last night called Spleen Bar. It has the best music going around. They go seamlessly from The Cure to the Backstreet Boys, and it is brilliant.
Whereabouts in Melbourne was that?
On Burke Street, top end near Spring Street.
Okay. So Lyon coming on to bowl. And I can't say the footwork from Robinson has been great since he's got in. He seems to be almost backing away to Nathan Lyon now, but at least he manages to pat it down the pitch. He's 1 off 12. Lyon 2 for 83 off his 30 overs. England 278 for 7. Lyon wheels around again, familiar fashion. Robinson, fed up, comes down the pitch, doesn't get much of it, wallops it out to mid-on where it is fielded, and he's on 2 from 13 now. Something just snapped in Robinson's brain there.
Yeah, I'm not sure what was going on there, but everything seems to be premeditated from Robinson, from the premeditated duck that he did a couple of overs ago to that one. So we could be in for an interesting half hour before lunch here.
Yes, we could. Lyon just adjusting his field, not quite happy with what he sees. Tosses the ball from hand to hand. Comes in up past the wicket. Classic off-spinner's delivery, which is patted down to mid-wicket by Wokes, who remains on 11 off 21. The footwork from Wokes and Robinson has been frankly poor since they've come in, but at least they're still there. And let's just take it from here. Lyon again in for the 4th ball of the over. This one a little wider of off-stump, and this time patted therefore into the covers. No run by Chris Wokes, who's perhaps just beginning to settle a little into his innings. Pats the crease, has a little look round. I'm going off my feed, by the way, on the TV because it's easier. It sometimes cuts out on the screen. I'm getting that one misdirected from Lyon and just easily left down the leg side by Wokes through to Carey.
Yeah, Wokes is looking a lot more comfortable. He's been in for 23 balls now.
Last ball of the over, and rinse and repeat, just knocked down to short leg by Chris Wokes on the bounce. At the end of the over, it's 7 for 279, 279 for 7. Wokes on 11, Robinson on 2. Anything happening on socials, Messi?
Indeed there is. Grand Theft Auto says captaining field positions. Atherton captained from Gully mostly, if I recall. Jay says Donno's story is better than mine. I'm just a convict. And he also says, Bear, your idealism is inspiring, but have you not mentioned on occasion that you might possibly have 3 kids?
reckon I might have dropped it in the conversation once or twice.
Thumbs up from Bear.
And Neil Frankman, responding to Bear's comments about your Prime Minister, is Bullingdon years are coming to an end. God, I hope you're right. I've got to say, we provide very stiff competition in Australia for fucking incompetent, lying Prime Ministers.
We've got a buffoon as well.
Yeah.
Oh, we most certainly have.
We're running in parallel.
We absolutely are. Then maybe you're feeling your mic's a little echoey and distant, Jez. Don't know whether you're plugged in.
You're right.
Check that. So, new over. Mitchell Stark, bristling with intent, comes in, but that's nicely played by Robinson through the covers, just wide of the man at mid-off. Nice bit of fielding there, possibly by Travis Head. A slightly over-ambitious throw back. Might be Marnus Labuschagne. A little hard to see in the Australian sun with the cap on, shade over the face. But that's score moves on to 282-7. I'd say took 3 runs off that, so the lead progresses quadruples to 4. England ripping up the scenery here.
I think that fielder might actually be a substitute fielder.
Yes, you might be right.
So possibly David Warner might be off again with his ribs. They did say that he was going to be fielding today, but yeah, I'm not sure. Someone Hunt, not Henry Hunt, because he's playing in the Australia A game.
Well, apparently it is Henry Hunt, who's been on all day for Warner. Stark in again. Not much happening there. Just patted back down the pitch by Works, who briefly considered a more ambitious shot, but reined himself in, and then practiced the shot he would have liked to have played, which was a pull. Score stays at 282-7. I believe it is Henry Hunt, actually.
It is. So he's just come down the road. He's been dismissed in the Australia A game. Yeah, down at Ian Healy Oval, and so they've just said, righto, instead of sitting and watching Bryce Street make 98 and Nick Maddinson make 63, you can come along and have a field.
Stark in again. That one arrowed more on leg stump at Chris Wokes, and he defends it quite nicely. He's beginning to look more the part now. He's 11 runs off 26, just pats it back into mid-wicket. I must say, just echoing what I think Jay Grover said, Ben Pobshe, who's on day 2 on Guerrilla Cricket, hasn't he got a beautiful voice? You can see. I know I was feeling quite lullabied out myself just listening to Ben. Beautiful speaking voice.
Well, Jay has a greeting for you. He says, "Hello, Forthy." Narrows eyes.
As Stark comes in again, a shorter one there, and just whistles past the chest of Chris Wokes. Again, he briefly considered an uppercut. I don't know whether he actually tried to pull off the uppercut, but he's miles from it. Just goes through it head high through to Alex Carey, and there is no run. And
that's
the captain
twice.
Comes in. Yeah.
I was gonna say that's twice that he's done that, like to a short ball, leaned back and tried to play a ramp over the slips. It was fucking dumb the first time, and it's fucking dumb now. Like, what's he doing?
Well, as you can hear, we've got 3 Australian-based commentators on. So Mitchell Stark in again for the 5th ball of the over, and not much happening there. Just patted down on the onside by Chris Wokes, a rather more sensible shot than the last one. We're talking about famous relatives. I've got a slightly infamous relative myself. My mother-in-law's first cousin was Kim Philby. I don't know whether anyone can better that.
Ooh, that's good.
I don't know who that is.
Oh, he's the famous spy from the Cambridge Ring from the 30s, along with McLean and the others. So, I mean, nothing to be proud of. Mitchell Stark in a game. There's a great wallop, if that's the correct word, from Chris Wokes. Just whistles past his outside edge and flies through to Carey. Nothing doing. That's the end of the over. England 282-7. Wokes on 11. Robinson on 5. And over to Messi on socials.
Though Richard Marlowe tells us something that I suspect reflects a huge number of our audience, at least, has just muted Warren again, can't put up with his verbal diarrhea. Farong says Australia, plenty of culture and no class, and then in brackets system hierarchy. Perhaps Messages could arrange some tours for the locations here, and he sent us a wonderful list of Australia's worst place names, including Bald Knob and Big Dick Bore and Big Knob Waterhole, and it goes on and on. So I recommend Bum Bum Creek. What a wonderful name. Prickly Bottom in Tasmania. There you go.
On that note, Nathan Lyon, wheels in again. Classic Nathan Lyon of spinning delivery. Fortunately, Robinson seems to have got that premeditation thing out of his system a little bit more. And some word or two, probably reasonably friendly between Wokes and Lyon. Been played in reasonably good spirits so far. Oh, and here we go again. Robinson, as if playing by numbers, premeditated again, comes down the wicket. Essays a shot over mid-on, and then instead it goes down to deep fine leg, comes back for a couple.
It was very much a carbon copy of the last time his brain said to him as Nathan Lyon was coming in, I'm going to take 3 steps down the pitch and swing this into the leg side. He didn't change his shot based on where the ball was.
He did not, no. I've been impressed by Robinson's bowling in this match. I cannot say the same for his batting. However, he's 8 off 16. Wokes, 11 off 29 facing. Oh, that was a grubber. That stayed low. That stayed below knee height. Fortunately, it was missing leg stump, and Wokes managed to jab a bat down on it just in the nick of time. So yeah,
that is not going to give the batters any sort of confidence.
Indeed not. It's a good thing the target at the moment stands at 7. Nathan Lyon in again, 4th ball of the over. That's a more conventional delivery, which is played down to mid-on by Ollie Robinson. There is no run.
A former work colleague of yours has sent in a request, Forthy. Grubby wants you to sing Rip It Up and Start Again. Please.
Well, I'll tell you who's not ripping it up and starting again. That's Ollie Robinson, who is now out. He's, as far as I can see, and I do have a slightly blurry feet. Yes, so that was. Thank you, Dono. That confirms what I feared.
Fuck off! Just fuck off!
Sorry for jumping in, Forthy, before you're able to, but my lord.
No problem at all, Dono. That was exciting live commentary. A brief and entertaining innings in many ways from Ollie Robinson. Scored 8 off 17. Caught head at, well, I suppose it was in the gully or point, but of course playing the reverse sweep, it never feels that way. And that brings to a conclusion Ollie Robbins' eccentric, I think we can say, and somewhat premeditated innings.
It's not the dumbest shot I've seen, but it's pretty fucking close.
Oh, yes.
When a reverse sweep doesn't come off, it really looks horrible, doesn't it? I remember think of Ian Bell, think of Mike Gatting in the 87 World Cup, who famously almost lost that World Cup with a reverse sweep off Alan Border's bowling.
Mark Ward trying one. He had never played a reverse sweep ever, and then he tried it in a World Cup.
Donny, I'm going to say this one. Maxwell batting a number 3 in in the UAE versus Pakistan a few years back, when they were about 300 behind in the second innings, came in, played a reverse sweep, and did exactly that.
Yeah.
I think that they showed
me to say yes.
But they showed Mark Ward's dismissal at Brisbane, and it was a reverse sweep. I mean, they were about 500 ahead, so who cares? But it was a nice wicket for Tuffers, for Tufnell. Looked very pleased with himself. Many years ago, we're back in the present, and it's Mark Wood facing his first ball from Nathan Lyon, and he plays it very nicely, I have to say. And he might be considering a promotion after that innings from Ollie Robinson. That's the end of the over. Wood on 0 off 1, Wokes on 12 off 31. England 286 for 8 runs in the lead, and over to Messi.
So Jay says, in a war of muppetry between Johnson and Morrison, whoever wins, we all lose. I think that's exactly right. Mike Taylor says, any weather around, like 5 sessions worth? I'm afraid not. No. There's some love for us on YouTube as well. And Dara Azizi says, when does a new ball become old? That was some time ago. And Howard Tegere says, please, folks, remind people to give you a thumbs up, like. You're doing great swearing and all. It's good to know that some people like the sweariness. Well, I think many people do. They expect it, obviously.
Very nice little stat. Oh, no, sorry, Messi. Into a new over from Mitchell Starc, and I was momentarily distracted, but the scorecard has ticked over for a run off the first ball from Wokes, which brings Wood onto strike to face 5 balls from Mitchell Starc. There's a conference between Cummins and Starc about where they should set the field. I don't think it should take too long. It is Mark Wood after all, and the lead is 9 with 2 wickets in hand, but it's good to get these things right.
Ball at the stumps.
That should probably do it.
Yeah. Just quickly, so Nicole has just put a stat to us saying that since 2006, Australia have taken a 250-plus run lead into the third innings 17 times, and this is only the second time the opposition have wiped out the deficit. The last one was New Zealand. Then New Zealand scored 407 to set Australia 106, which they smashed in 23 overs.
Mitchell Starc in again, into the ribs of Mark Wood. There's absolutely no doubt what the strategy is going to be to England's lower order throughout this Ashes series. Dig him into the ribs. And Mark Wood was out that way in the first innings, but he played that one reasonably nicely. He just flicked it off his chest, down wide of Carey's left hand, and they ran through for 1 run.
Dom Bess has just got a wicket, which is exciting. He just got Nick Maddinson out for 71 off 46 balls in the A game. He has 2 for
150.
2 for 129 off 31. Bryce Street's on 105. Australia A 2 for 269.
Leading by 379 runs. That sounds familiar.
Starc, yes, indeed. Starc coming for third ball of the over, and that's a little bit of attacking intent from quick Chris Wokes. He plays it through the covers, but with no great timing. It's fielded rather nicely, rather well there, possibly by the ubiquitous Henry Hunt. And the score, there is no run. Wokes stays on 13, Wood on 1, 288 for 8.
Oh, dear. Farong's been very optimistic. He says, quarter of an hour to lunch. Can Australia knock England off before the interval? But not half as optimistic as my Yank, who wants England to bat for the entire 5 sessions.
Well, yes. Well, there are miracles in cricket, and there are miracles, and that ain't gonna happen. We've all been here before. Australia will inevitably win this match. There have been some positives for England. The Starc bowls that one. 4th ball of the over, and just played back down the pitch by Chris Wokes. There's no run. He remains on 13. As the camera zooms in on the stormtroopers, of which there are a huge number in the crowd.
I think I heard earlier there were in the hundreds of them.
It certainly looks that way. It's an impressive turnout.
I think it's
again. Starc in again, and Wokes just pokes that one through the third man, down to the third man region, takes a run.
I think it's
Does anybody else share the view that stormtroopers were probably the most ineffectual troops ever? You only had to shoot them within 5 meters of them and they died. You notice that in Star Wars? It's extraordinary how stormtroopers were useless.
This is where I reveal to everyone that I've never seen Star Wars.
Another one. Yeah.
Well, that's a badge of honour in some quarters. Starc in again, coming round the wicket. Obviously, Wokes has really got his number, and Australia really on the ropes here, because Stark's had to go to plan B. Nicely played by Wokes, just pats down the wicket. There's no run. That's the end of the over. England 289 for 8. Wokes on 14. Wood on 1. How the socials look?
Grand Theft Auto, mate, has a very good idea. He says, a fucking reverse sweep! Save that exclamation as a jingle for whenever that shot is played. I think that's a really good idea. When Bear's back, I think I'll put that to him. That was quite something, Donna. Neil Franklin says, get Wokes up the order. He's the only Brad person who knows how to bat.
Yeah, and Lyon wheeling away into his 33rd over. Never seems to get tired. So I'm 3 for 88. just bowls classic delivery, which is patted down. There's no run from Wokes, and quite rapidly into his second ball. Not much happening there either. Just patted down by Wokes. It's all fairly quiet and calm when.
So Ferrong raises an interesting question, which we might get Bear to answer. England giving everyone a chance in the GPL today. Get on. What's the story with that, Bear?
In fact, I'm going to cut it off now.
Okay, too late for the GPL, but not too late for Lyon's third ball of the over, which again, just respectfully tapped into the covers by Chris Wokes. There's no run. And as night follows day, wheels around, and on this occasion, Australia have shown a tiny amount of sloppiness in the field. There's a slight misfield at mid-on as Wokes pushes that past mid-on and does take the run. So Mark Wood is going to have to solve the conundrum for 2 balls of Nathan Lyon, and does reasonably well with the first ball, just nicely getting into line in a way that Ollie Robinson did not for the 5th ball of the over.
Leo says, I hope England lose the series 5-0. They deserve it for leaving me a can of coffee at 3 a.m. on a fucking Saturday morning.
And that's quite nicely played. Last ball of the over from Mark Wood. He steals the strike. He'll be facing Mitchell Stark, which is maybe not ideal. And he moves on to 2 from 5 ball. Works 15 of 39. England 291 for 8.
I just wanted to touch again just quickly on the Stormtroopers. So there are 509 of them, and I'm pretty sure that it's linked to the Movember charity. So which is looking at men's mental health. It's also looking at a whole range of other men's health issues. So it's a brilliant cause that they're doing, and they do look pretty good in that massive bay of 500 Stormtroopers.
They look great. They look hot. So Mitchell Stark in for into his 20th over now. And Mark Wood probably didn't need to play at that one, but did. But nothing much happened. Just dribbles out into the offside.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'd want to be in 30 degrees in Brisbane in a Stormtrooper uniform.
When we used to have dress-up parties every Christmas at the agency I used to work. And one day it was magic and mystery one year. I went as Dumbledore on a 43-degree day.
Oh, fuck.
And my God, I was hot under that beard. Oh, that's a short pitch ball, which actually, I have to say that Mark Wood plays extremely well. So that was dug in, an excellent bouncer, in fact. Gets right on top of it. He looks bemused as to where the ball might have gone, but he's actually played it nicely down to ground. And typical Mark Wood fashion, as soon as he's spotted that it's gone harmlessly down on the onside, breaks into a broad grin.
That was an absolute snorter from Stark. And yeah, like seeing Wood look around going, where the hell's that gone, was quite amusing, but that's well played.
It was well played. And his reward, he throws the bat at a slightly wider ball from Stark, and it sails over the slips for 4 runs.
It's Nissan She. It's Nissan She.
Wood moving on there then for 6 of 8 deliveries. He'll definitely going to get promoted over Ollie Robinson. He'll be not just skittish, but eccentrically skittish during his odd innings.
Bear, you were off air when we had an excellent suggestion of ripping Dono's reaction to the reverse sweep and making that into a jingle for whenever it's used.
It's going to be, the TMS used to have a champagne moment. I'd probably nominate Dono's reaction to Robinson's dismissal for exactly that.
Yeah.
No run off that ball from start to Wood, just patted down into the offside.
And I do apologise for the colourful language, of course.
It's encouraged.
Expect colourful language.
But it was deserved.
We're a visceral internet cricket radio station.
Fuck off! Just fuck off!
As if any more proof were needed. Thank you, Bear. Another bouncer. This one less well directed. It sails over Mark Wood's head. And, sensibly that probably should have been a wide, but sails through to Alex Carey's gloves on the just above his head. No run. A cruise.
Alex Carey has been really impressive this test. Like, he's not done anything outstanding, but he hasn't fucked up.
Oh, he has. A couple of times.
Oh, has he? Okay, I haven't seen him.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a couple of times. It is true. It's been probably give him 7 out of 10. He takes that one quite nicely. And that's the end of the over. No runner cruise. Chris again, an ill-directed bouncer to Chris Wokes, who just watches it sail over his head, taken by Carey. England at the end of the 101st over, so I suppose that's a victory of sorts. 295 for 8, Wood on 6 and Wokes on 15.
So we have a tweet from Mr. Carroll from Margs, which I take to be Margaret River, this is his first ever tweet. So welcome. He says Western Australia is the only place where you can live in Inaloo and Upper Swan, which is quite true. Jay Grover says, I'm going to accentuate the positives here and say, nah, I thought we would lose yesterday, so it's all a plus. He also says the only time swearing should be censored on Guerrilla Cricket is during the Ben Stokes jingle, because the beeps make it 23 times funnier. That's very true, yes.
First ball from Lyon in the new over. You didn't miss anything there. That was just a classic off spinner's delivery. Patted back down the wicket to Chris Wokes. As this might or might not be the last over before luncheon. Poor foot movement there from Chris Wokes. He looked a little stranded on his crease and just jagged down on it, and it spat out to leg gully. And they scampered through for a single. Wokes moves on to 16 off 41. England 296 for 8.
Nathan Lyon being at the bowler's end as a terrible throw comes in, not being able to affect a run out. We're not scarred. We're not scarred by that at all.
Not
scarred at all.
I think that 15 minutes of cricket in that last 3 overs of that particular test match is the most. More happens than sometimes happens in an entire series.
All we need now is to blow a DRS.
Yes, that's right. Lyon in again. Oh my goodness. He's pitched it up a little further. He's tempted Wood into the drive. It's beaten him through the outside edge. He's clean bowled. He's out for 6 off 13. England 296 for 9. The end is 9.
Indeed it is.
Now you're gone.
Or bowled.
Yeah, so it just tempted him, didn't it? And he fell for a sucker punch. Actually, although it was a sort of off-spinning delivery, it beat him on the outside. He just didn't get his timing right. Now, then, 1 wicket to fall. Do Australia take the extra 20 minutes or half hour? I'm not sure what the regulations are. I imagine they probably will. Not much point going out, is there?
It's not their choice. It's the umpire's choice.
Okay, then.
If it's permitted. I'm not sure if it's permitted at lunchtime. It certainly is at tea. You know, Donna?
No, I'm trying to look at that at the moment. And in looking for that, I've found a wonderful stat about Ollie Robinson. Since making 42 in his first test innings, Robinson has made 53 runs in 9 innings at an average of 6.62.
Would you care to define a sort of wonderful stat there? It didn't sound that wonderful to English ears there, Tom.
That's a sort of broad-esque decline, isn't it?
Yeah, on fast forward, absolutely it was. Yeah. He's actually looked pretty awful at the batting crease. So Jack Leach, fresh from breaking all sorts of unfortunate records with the ball in the first innings, comes out to bat. Over to bat.
Coming up, here's a face that I know. It's Jack Leach. Now coming up is Jack Leach. Oh, Jack Leach.
Nice, cool jazz vibe welcoming Jack Leach to the crease, and he leaves that first ball from Nathan Lyon, who's come around the wicket to the left-hander very nicely. I'm trying to get into the jazz vibe myself there by going down a notch.
Cool sounds of 4:30 on a Saturday afternoon.
Beautifully left by Jack Leach there as Nathan Lyon bowls. Last ball of the over. England 296 for 9. Leach number
So
2.
before I read any
Works
tweets,
16 of 41.
I think it's a good opportunity for you just to drop in a gratuitous mention of your podcast, Forty.
Oh, really? Should I give
Yes.
myself a little plug? Oh, very
Yep.
well. So, for all fans of alternative music out there, and I know there's a big intersection with our cricketing demographic, do tune into sombrerofallout.com, where there's 94 podcasts of increasingly brilliant quality to listen to, hosted by yours truly. So, if alternative music is your thing, sombrerofallout.com can also be your thing. And become a friend of Sombrero Fallout on Facebook as well, if you wish.
Good.
Do you have anything to advertise, Donna?
No, I do have a podcast as well, a sporting discussion. Myself and my co-host AJ Mithen have a very robust discussion every now and then. We like to do it weekly, but then again, life gets in the way. So, and also, no, that's it. No, that'll do me. I've got nothing to sell.
So
Everyone's got a podcast now. And indeed, it's green time. He's been whistled up from the outfield to see if he can polish off this English innings. And indeed, lunch has been delayed with England 9 wickets down. I imagine that probably the extra half hour has been taken. Seems quite sensible. Not exactly sure why Cameron Green's bowling right now. First ball is giving us a wide. Woke's first legitimate ball of Green's over just pats it down to mid-wicket where there is no run. He remains on 16 as the sound of... I'll try to reflect the sound of the Kinks for this over. It's no longer a jazz vibe, it's more of a sort of 60s neo-psychedelic vibe.
You mentioned everyone has a podcast. It reminds me of the song by the Fauves, Everybody's Getting a Three-Piece Together.
Yeah, it's the golden age of podcastry. When I started 4 years ago, I think there's 100,000 of them. There's now 2 million of them.
Oh,
so that's a lot of podcasts. As Green comes in for the second ball of the over, no run ensues. Wokes just stabs down on it. And Wokes looking as comfortable as anyone has for what it's worth. But with England 19 runs ahead and with 1 wicket available, it's all fairly academic. And that third ball of the over also leads to no runs. It's batted down to point by Chris Wokes.
Ramfath Ardagh has some excellent advice for career criminals in Brisbane. He says, commit your crime spree today dressed as a stormtrooper. It will seed much confusion.
Excellent advice, and thank you all who've been contributing on social media throughout this test, and we look forward to your company throughout the rest of the series. As Cameron Green comes in again for his 4th ball of the over, he's got very good figures for a 5th bowler of 1 for 23 into his 12th over. He's done exactly the job that Australia would have hoped for him, the Shane Watson-esque job, as I think Knuckle commented earlier this morning. Well done to him.
I actually see him as a pretty different bowler to Shane Watson. He's got the potential for real pace, which Watto I don't think ever had.
No, Watto was brilliant at bowling that stump-to-stump line and coming on for 4 overs, just giving the main bowlers a break.
5th ball of Cameron Green's over. Nothing much happens again. Absolutely on the money. No deviation, and nicely patted back down the wicket by Chris Wokes, who remains on 16. England 297 with 9.
Of course,
Sorry, go on.
I was going to say, I was a massive Shane Watson fan from the get-go. I claimed that he was going to score 20 Test centuries, but alas, that was when he was batting at 3 and opening the bowling for Tasmania.
Well, Shane Watson is in the past. At the present, England have just lost the first Test match. Australia have won it. Wokes tried 1 ramp too many.
They need 20 runs.
Oh, you're absolutely right. I'm feeling so nihilistic And so over England's chances, I've completely forgotten there's still 20 runs to be had. Nonetheless, England are, thank you for the correction. Wokes, last man out, trying, as I say, a ramp too many, flew through to Alex Carey of Cameron Green's bowling, who finishes on 2 for 23 of 12 overs. Leach finishes not out. It's a minor triumph for him of 2 balls. England all out for 297. And Australia will just need the 19 runs for victory. Final thoughts, chaps?
Can I string through a few tweets before we go to lunch? Because there are a few here. Andrew Harrison says Robertson has gone down the road from looks like a useful bat to tail ender at top speed. It took Goff and Broad years. And Tom M says Wokes should be batting above Pope on this showing. Pirate Badshaw, about you, Donna, says, I really wonder what sort of deprived childhood you'd have to have had not to have seen Star Wars. Australia can't be that different from Ireland. They were on TV every year when I was small. They still bloody are, too. And Jane with a Y says, I may occasionally fling Star Wars merch in the direction of Mog and Subtle Knife. Jay Grover says, confirmed, Dono and Forthy both work for the agency. This rabbit hole is getting deeper. Conspiracy theories are not welcome here. Actually, Jay. Tom M, don't worry, boys. If Warner's injured, they're already one down. Jay Grover says fan support for making It's a Fucking Reverse Sweep jingle coming from Sheffield. And Brian Singh says this match was perfectly set up for Jack Leach. And Jay says, from 93 from Leach, then sorted. I might have nicked Mash's bag just now. And also says sombrero fallout was jolly good. Then Forthy said something to offend me yesterday, which I can't remember, but I'm still outraged about messing with it. It's still mint. Thank you for that. And finally, another reference. Taipang Xing says Sombrero Fallout is represented only by a playlist on Spotify posted by one Guy Haslam, but the podcast is found on the Podbean app. There you go.
It is, and I'm not on Spotify because I get taken down, but you can get it on Apple and other platforms.
Excellent. And finally, Tom M says if Green was English, we'd leave Broad and Anderson out of the team and have him open the bowling. He would be a perfectly adequate opening bowler if it wasn't for the fact that he bats really well as well. So that's it. Thank you all.
Thanks very much, Bessie. Great to have your company as ever. Dono, anything you'd like to say in summary?
So I think that the day started with positive intent, or with plenty of options for another wonderful day of cricket ahead of us, but then Nathan Lyon came in and fucked all that up by taking his 400th wicket. Then Joe Root couldn't deal with the beauty of New Watto, Cameron Green, and from there it was pretty much all just a quick downhill decline. Joss Buttler 23 off 39, Chris Wokes 16 off 47 were the only two in the lower order to offer any sort of resistance. But from, I think once Milan went out, went from 2 for 223 to all out 297. So that seems like 8 for 74 in my books, which is not really a good way for the English innings to go. And Australia just need to come out and bosh 19 runs pretty quickly and then have an afternoon at the golf course and a day off tomorrow.
You've got a feel for Harris, though, haven't you? He's on a hiding to nothing.
Oh, is he going to nick off? He's going to nick off, is he?
Yeah, come on. Just to create a bit of jeopardy.
Okay, I'm unlikely to be back, so I'd like to say thank you all very much, particularly those of you with me on air, and I'll catch you in Adelaide.
Absolutely. I'm going to thank you very much, Messi. Thank you, Dono, and thank you to all our contributors this morning. I think it's, despite the state of the game, we've all enjoyed ourselves enormously as ever, and I hope we've brightened your lives wherever you might be around the world. I'll hand you over to Bear, who's going to tell us what proceedings are from here on in.
Well, it's lunch. We're going to play the full Chris Board interview, and then we'll be back. It's me, Beefy, and Anthony if they bother to join up. If not, we'll find replacements. But They're in Australia, so it should be okay. And it will last about 20 minutes after lunch, and then we'll all be fine. Yeah? Then we can go home and sleep if you're in England. And dream of things in Adelaide. So we're going to play Chris Board, and we'll see you in about 35 minutes or so.
Chairman Mao, Jamie Howe, Ho Chi Minh, Asif Din, Václav Havel, Graham Saville, No Surrender, Percy Fender, Guerrilla Cricket.
Welcome to Guerrilla Cricket. December the 3rd sees the release of Inside the Tour, the Ashes 86-87. It's the definitive story of that extraordinary tour, told by Mark Pugach by those who were part of it. It's a terrific listen, and you'll find it via your usual podcast provider. One of those who was not just there, but became man of the series is my guest on Guerrilla Cricket today, Chris Broad. Chris, welcome to Guerrilla Cricket.
Thank you very much, Tony.
Well, 6 Test hundreds in your career, I counted. 4 of them were against Australia. Was there consciously something special for you every time the Ashes rolled around?
I would like to say yes, but unfortunately I played against Australia in England and didn't do quite as well as I had in Australia. I think the pitches in Australia suited me better than the pitches here in the UK, and basically I think I had a purple moment, and for that 18-month period, I very rarely failed in pitches in Australia, and it was just a magic moment.
Well, some purple moment. Well, before we go on to that series, remarkable as it certainly is, I wanted to just take you back to your debut, actually, because that was at Lord's against the West Indies. You got yourself a 50. Now, that series, as we know, went horribly badly, really, for England. But you were facing Malcolm Marshall, Joel Garner, Michael Holding, admittedly in a losing cause. You made yourself a 50 on debut. Didn't you feel after that series, crikey, things can only get better from here? Having faced that sort of attack.
Yes. I mean, I was so delighted to receive the call up to play, because I think it's every English cricketer's dream to play for their country, and I was very fortunate, having moved from Gloucestershire to Nottinghamshire, that season in '84, and so quickly been given a call up to play for England. I was just enjoying the moment, and sure, at the end of the season, when I wasn't selected to go on the tour of India, it was very disappointing. But we were, cast your memory back to those days where we were very much in a horses for courses type selection policy, and my forte was allegedly against fast bowling. So to play against the West Indies was a forte of mine, and I think the selectors also had a view that the West Indies bowlers didn't bowl particularly well to left-handed batsmen. I'm not sure that was proven in that series, but
no.
I was just delighted to have played, and very disappointed at the end of the season when I wasn't given a chance to go on tour. But
well, maybe that disappointment fueled what was to come. So let me just remind people about the 86-87 tour. Obviously, England won against the odds, 2-1. You saw England over the line to win the first test in Brisbane after a few wobbles. Not yours. wobbles around here.
There were some of mine as well. Yes, right. First innings.
Yeah, well, true. You then went on to become only the 3rd Englishman after Jack Hobson, Wally Hammond to score 3 consecutive Ashes Test hundreds. You got the 162 at the Wacker in a drawn game, 116 at Adelaide, and then crucially 112 at the MCG for England to win by an innings. I guess one question is amongst all of that fantastic purple spell for you, do any of those stick out more than others?
Yes, the 100 at Perth. Your first 100 is always a very memorable moment. and my parents were in the crowd during that Test match. So the fact that we won the toss and batted on an absolute road and an outfield that was like glass was just an absolute delight. And yes, I mean, it's very sad, I suppose, in some aspects that Test cricket or top-level Test cricket will no longer be played at the WACA, but it has a very special place in my heart.
People might be glad of a bit more shade, but other than that, I agree. Those playing, I agree with you. And you mentioned your parents, which I recall you'd said before, and I can only imagine how that must have felt for you and indeed for them. Well, now nobody gave England much of a chance, did they? And yet England prevailed, and you magnificently so. Was there any moment during the series when you suddenly thought things have clicked here? We are going to do this.
Yeah, when we went 2-0 up at Melbourne with only one to play.
Okay. Were there no triggers though, sort of?
I mean, there wasn't the media coverage then that there is now. So the build-up to it was an England-Australia clash, not the Ashes, although it was the Ashes. The media hype about England-Australia clashes now is enormous. And it was my first tour, and it was a tour to Australia, a country that I'd been to before and played some club cricket. So I was looking forward to it, and where I said that it was every cricketer's dream to play for England, it was certainly every international cricketer's dream English cricketer's dream to play in Australia. And of course, to win in Australia would have been the cherry on top, and so it proved.
Very, very much so. Well, there was, of course, that famous quote. This must have followed you around. Of course, you've got the perfect riposte to it. But the late Martin Johnson, who'd written, of course, that I mean, it wasn't a great warm-up for England. You'd lost a couple of series. Australia hadn't won a series in 7, I think, since '84. It was remarkable. So they were struggling. You described them, I think, as a merging rather than a poor team, which I thought was good, was kind of you. But Martin Johnson famously said, the famous quote, "Can't bat, can't bowl, can't field." Did that poke a bit of a fire amongst the players on the tour?
Do you know, I think we took an enormous lead from the senior players of the tour. Martin Johnson was probably right, because we didn't score very many runs. We didn't look like a team that was going to be able to bowl out an international side. And some of our fielding was pretty average. But the first month of the tour, for me, was desperately trying to find some form, but for the other guys was just acclimatising to a country that they already knew. And I will always remember Ian Botham standing up at our pre-test match dinner and giving us a right rollicking and saying, what's happened in the last month has now happened. This is where the tour starts. And of course, he went out and he got 100. Gower got some runs. Lamb got some runs. The senior players came to the party.
I'm very glad you asked that. You mentioned that because I had a very specific question about that. I've read
Fire away.
Well, I've read the quote from Ian Botham several times. It's something along the lines of what gets printed was, that's it, the party's over, the game begins tomorrow. And I've listened to the podcast on which you appear, which is, as we've said, fantastic listening. Everybody remembers what he said differently, including they all get the gist of it. They all say the effect it had on them. What was actually said, you are from Gladstone, Mike Gatting, they all remember something slightly different. What's your actual memory of what he said?
I mean, I can picture the meal. I can picture sitting in the room, and the cold, hard facts of the actual speech have passed me by now. But I do remember, in all seriousness, that here was this legend of the game and our lead player, if you like, standing up and using an awful lot of expletives to the rest of his team to say, this is where the tour starts. The exact words I can't recall.
Possibly the expletive, that's why people remember it differently.
Possibly.
I'm guessing.
But for me, this was a man who had been to Australia a number of times, wanted to succeed in the country, and he was obviously from 1981 had a great record against Australia, but not necessarily in Australia. And I think he really wanted this team to gel together, as we have begun to do in the month leading up to it, but mostly off the field rather than on the field. And he wanted us to take the off-field gelling to the on-field part, and he was going to lead the front. And certainly by his actions on the field, he definitely led from the front in that first Test match. And the first Test match in any series is massively crucial because in Australia had just drawn a Test series in India, so they were the favourites going into this Test series, and we needed to come out fighting.
Well, you certainly did that in Brisbane. There was a quote I read from you a while back about, a lot of the acclimatising was about wine and social more than than the cricket at one point, which makes me want to kind of ask you, because there was so much going on around this tour. I mean, this is why the podcast is such fun, because you get a little bit of the sense of that. I mean, but you had, even from the build-up and the poor form of both teams, you had the Gower Gatting I'm in charge handover. You had the return of Ian Botham after a brief sojourn away from the game. You had partying wine, rum, fancy dress, Francis Edmonds following the tour, and Elton John was your team DJ, I think, after Melbourne, and your cheerleader in chief. I mean, there's so much going on. How, as a comparative new boy, but with so much responsibility of opening innings, how did you keep your own focus with everything there going on around you?
Partly because I wasn't totally involved in the party side of it. I was, and throughout my, I've got a great friend, Phil Bainbridge, who, he enjoyed the social side of cricket, and I enjoyed drink, but my focus was mainly on the playing side of it. Phil had massive more talent than I did, but I was boring, if you like, and I enjoyed playing cricket, and I couldn't play with any sort of ailment, so I needed to focus on the job in hand. And obviously the disappointment of '84 of missing out on a tour, I was desperate to do as well as I possibly could. And so my focus wasn't necessarily on a lot of late nights and drinking and socializing. It was doing what I needed to do and going out on the field of play and scoring runs. And so I think that was my focus. And it just, yes, of course, there were times when we would have a drink together and socialize and enjoy the tour, enjoy Australia as it was as a whole. But for me, it was about doing enough socializing until that was it, and you move on to the next day's play and being able to do that.
Well, something else I'd read in the past, that you described Mike Gatting as your sort of captain, get up and go, who loved a challenge. Tell me a little bit, perhaps, about how he helped you as captain, because ultimately the team did focus. They knuckled down. They listened to Surya, who wasn't Surya, I don't think, at the time. And you got that magnificent result, and you piled on runs, and you did it. Tell me a little bit about how personally Mike Gatting helped steer you along.
Well, I mean, cricket is a very funny sport in that the captain has a massive influence over how the team gels together and plays. And, in my career at county level and at international level, there are various captains who you look at and who I look up to and respect. And obviously, Mike had a great deal of respect from a number of people within the team. Yes, there have been captaincy changes at international level on a fairly frequent basis. But for me, he was a Joe Soap type character, a Mr. Average type character. He wasn't he wasn't a highly educated individual who mixed with the hoi polloi. He was everyday sort of individual who I could relate to, and for me as an ordinary player in the team, he would just give me some advice, words of advice, and send me out on the field of play, and I got the impression, understood who I was. So for me, that was a terrific thing.
Well, I can imagine as a comparative. I mean, you'd gone through was it Sri Lanka and obviously the West Indies series. As a comparative newish member of the team, that was worth its weight in gold for you. So, man of the series, those 3 fantastic back-to-back tons. You got that award. How much did that really mean? How much does it still mean when you think back on that?
Well, when having played for Notts and the previous season, Richard Hadley had won the International Cricketer of the Year. It was quite a feather in my cap. Not that I'm comparing myself to Richard in any way, shape or form, because for me, he was one of the best all-rounders in world cricket and will always go down as one of my all-time heroes with tremendous talent. I didn't have anywhere near the sort of abilities that he had, but to be able to walk into the dressing room the following summer and say, "Oh, International Cricketer of the Year, yes, Richard, yes, it's easy, isn't it?"
Well, you went
all
on
a bit of fun.
Well, it's a bit of fun. You will keep with you forever, that's for sure.
Absolutely, yeah.
So after 7 tests, home tests in a way, you carried on making runs. You went on and made another ton against Australia, didn't you, in the 1988 bicentenary test?
Yes.
Did that have the same buzz?
Yes, very much so. Back at a venue that I knew, with pretty much the same sort of team against pretty much the same sort of opposition, and yes, it was. It took me back 8 months to the previous Ashes, and this was a place that I felt comfortable playing cricket in, and right from the word go, found the middle of the bat and was enjoying myself.
When kind of the England phase of your career kind of came to an end, did you feel that there were international runs left unscored and that England were missing out when that happened? I think a lot of people did, by the way.
Sorry?
I think a lot of people did think that.
Well, I think any sportsman can look back at certain times of their careers and think you've left something out there. I did, although I looked at my abilities and a number of people questioned whether I had the ability to score runs at this level. I had a limited technique. Most of my runs were scored between mid-off and square leg. I had a bum that stuck out. Most people were quite mentioned that I had an unusual stance. I wasn't a David Gower. I wasn't a classical left-hander cricket player, but I had a great mental fortitude, and I believed in being out there and trying as hard as I could to score as many runs as I could. And Australia on those pitches against that bowling attack suited me at the time, and I loved every moment of it.
Well, and people love watching it. Certainly English people. I'm not sure about Australians, but English people certainly love watching it. It just brings me on to a couple more sort of questions. And you had a couple of fiery moments in your career. Did those experiences help to inform your current approach in terms of understanding, particularly when you have to deal with tricky situations and fiery characters? Does it inform you to be better at what you do now?
I'd like to hope so. I mean, I'm passionate about this sport. I think this sport is an amazing sport. It's given me an amazing career, an amazing life, and is still giving me an amazing career and life. And I am very passionate about how the game is played, and there are times when I don't do as well as I could, and I see players not doing as well as they could, and it gives me an understanding of the pressures that these players are under out in the middle, and an empathy towards them achieving a level that they should do, so that the next generation coming into the game are aware of where the standards lie.
Well, that's a great appraisal. I mean, let's just look ahead very briefly to the series coming up. Although it's seeming to be curiously English in terms of its weather, which might work in England's favour. I mean, one thing that England have been working for a while on building up a pace attack, which has sort of fallen apart a bit, and you're back to great experience. But how much of a role model is that 86 and 87 team? I mean, you had Gladstone, Ian Botham, De Freitas, you had two spinners. You didn't have you had Graham Dilley, of course, but you didn't have relentless pace, and yet you more than did the job. It's a little similarity there with perhaps this England team. What can they learn from you, and how will it serve them if they do?
Well, I mean, I think I know the England team have Troy Cooley in their camp this Ashes series, which is going to be a massive boost to them. And you look at the greatest Australian fast bowler of recent time, Glenn McGrath. He wasn't anything out of the ordinary. He was someone who hit a line and length, and the Kookaburra ball doesn't do a huge amount off the seam, but will do enough so that if the likes of Ollie Robinson and Stewart and Jimmy, if there is moisture around, can hit the lines and lengths that are required, then there's no reason why they can't knock over, on paper, a very strong Australian batting lineup.
Well, no one's done it at Brisbane since you did.
Well, that's right. Consequently, there is a potential for England to back up someone like Joe Root in the side that they've picked. Most people are looking at it and going, the Australian bowling attack is probably too strong for the top six. But, with the likes of Bill Athey and myself, and James Whittaker came in and got some runs, there is opportunity for those lesser lights, if I can call them that, to stake their claim and get themselves into the Ashes lineup and do a good job for the side.
There's also a big, high-profile, charismatic all-rounder. There's a similarity as well, possibly, providing he's fit and raring to go between the two.
A boost for the England, and that's a boost for the England team as a whole, certainly, with having Ben Stokes back. Yes,
isn't it just? Okay, so I'm conscious of time now. Last question for you. I don't know if it's like the Masters where you hand over something, but you were man of the series. Who's your tip for man of the series this time round?
Well, I'd like to say a certain Stuart Broad.
Yep.
But I don't know. I think it's there for anyone to put their hand up and grab, really. Someone who is going to go and score a huge amount of runs, or someone who's going to take an enormous amount of wickets. It's very difficult on both sides to be able to pick out one individual who is going to be the star. But, maybe the fact that Ben Stokes has had a layoff and will be raring to go, and is a proven quality batsman and bowler and fielder, of course. He would possibly be my tip, but I don't want to put in any additional pressure on him for that
no,
recognition.
I think we all feel that way a wee bit. Well, a reminder to everybody that you can hear the story of the memorable 86-87 Ashes with Chris, plus Sir Ian Botham, Mike Gatting, David Gower, Alan Lamb, Gladstone Small, Phil De Freitas, Mickey Stewart, not to mention Jeff Lawson and Alan Border, on the Inside the Tour podcast series. Chris Broad, it has been a real pleasure chatting to you on Guerrilla Cricket. Thank you very much indeed for your time.
for that Test match. And I think all of the England batsmen, including myself, tried to hit him into the Sydney Harbour, which is about 3 miles away from the SCG. And he ended up getting 6 wickets in the first innings and another 4 or 5 in the second, because we just tried to keep munging this guy out of the SCG on that Test match. So yes, the focus again wasn't quite what it could have been, but yes, I mean, but yeah, we're 2-0 up with 1 to play in the Ashes. England hadn't won an Ashes series since Ray Illingworth's team in 71 or so. So it was something that was definitely worth celebrating, that's for sure. So yes, it was disappointing that we couldn't quite finish them off and win the series 3-0 or 2-0. So we gave them a little bit of a
still an Ashes win in the record books.
We give the Australians a chance, they'll take it.
Yeah, well, I mean, a huge part of that story in '86 was not just the win, although that was fantastic in itself, but everything that went on around it. There was the build-up, wasn't there, with the Gower Gatting "I'm in charge" T-shirt handover. There was the return of Ian Botham after, shall we say, an enforced break. There was parting wine, you've mentioned it, rum, fancy dress. I mean, I think you were Zorro before you went and put Australia to the sword, which is kind of appropriate. Well, it tells me we're running out of time. We're going to have to. I think it was because we had Dan on at the beginning. How did you manage to keep focus? Tell me that.
Well, listen. Again, you're playing for your country. You're playing Test cricket for your country. So there's lots of pride involved, lots of passion. You're playing against Australia, the arch enemy, shall we say? So that also is you know. And obviously you're playing. As I said, when you're playing for your shirt, you're playing for pride. So you can't take things for granted. And you want to set. If you can set a mark and set a standard that carries you through into your career, then the Ashes is a good one to have. So that's what it's all about, really. And I'm sure, as the guys in Australia. For this current series, obviously, and you know, they'll want to create their part of history, and that's when you get a quiet moment to think of what the Ashes is about, and that's what really makes you want to get out there and be the man. And perform.
You hadn't quite done with Australia, Glasser, because you came up against them again in '89 in England. Didn't you actually rescue a draw for England at the Oval there? Hero with the bat on that occasion.
Well, this just goes there. If only I was on my way to my maiden Test match centuries, and I ran out of partners.
But it was a draw.
People like people like batting down the order with people like Nick Cook, the beast, and obviously, I think came in number 11 that Test match. Sadly, recently passed away. Was the Kent bowler Alan Eggleston. Sadly, just recently passed away. So he was making his Test match debut, that Test match. And I remember obviously trying to get him to stay with me, as I was feeling quite confident. Even on 59, I was sensing myself getting 100 on a good batting track at the Oval.
Just 41 short of that.
Oh,
if we think ahead, then let's look ahead to the series coming up. Can our England side out there take inspiration from those heroes of '86, '87? Starting in Brisbane.
Absolutely, they can, because once again, when you're in Australia, the Aussies aren't going to give them much chance. Obviously, you see the likes of typically Glenn McGrath would be saying it's going to be 5-0 to Australia, and that would be most of the Australian public would be saying that. So they'll hear that, they'll know that. But listen, it's. I think this is going to be a really good Test match series against two quite even teams, quite frankly, and it's the one who gets leg up first in this series could be the one who controls how it goes. So that's going to be the challenge. That's going to be the challenge for the England team, and that's why the Aussies always take you to Brisbane, because Brisbane, the weather, it's hot, it's tropical, it's hot, it's steamy. The pitch gets harder and faster as it goes. Starts off a little bit tacky, but then it seems to get quicker and harder. And so the Aussie bowlers become more into the game. So you're going to be tested. You'll be tested if you're not just your cricket, your temperament, your ability, but they test you mentally, physically as well. They'll threaten you, you're upstairs, with all the bouncer stuff. It's real, and it's a bit of a cake tin, the Gabba these days. It gets very steamy and hot in there, and so the Aussies, that's the reason why they love, and their record at the Gabba is quite formidable.
Well, England haven't won there since you guys, although you didn't play in that game, but 86, 87 was the last time. It's going to be a new Kookaburra ball. Sounds like one you'd quite like to have had in your hands.
Well, it's the Kookaburra ball. It's a new cricket ball. It'll be 5.5 ounces, But that's where the similarity ends. It always feels a little bit bigger than our Duke ball. It always somehow feels, that little bit more. You've got to really get it into your hands. And then the main thing in the cricket ball is obviously the seam.
Yeah.
And that seam on a Kookaburra ball, it lies flatter. It lies quite flat, as opposed to our Dukes, which always seems a little bit more. You can really feel when you hold a Duke ball, you think, "Oh, I've got a friend here. I've got this seam as my friend." Whereas on a Kookaburra, you don't feel that. And after 10, 15 overs,
and we are back. Anthony's not here as per, but Beefy is. And how are you feeling, mate?
Oh, well, it's the hope that kills you, and it's the hope that kills you.
Isn't it
disaster,
just?
Eh?
Knackles joined us.
Hello, yes. 77 for 8 in 33 overs.
Very English.
That was... There was a timidity to how England played today. There was a real indecision in the stroke play, and there was nothing... I think nothing more... there was so many... Root and Butler both getting out defending at balls that weren't going to hit the stumps. I think pretty much sum that up. Anthony has turned up for the victory lap, so I'm going to say goodbye. And see you in Adelaide.
Indeed. Yeah, so we'll have some jingles to start it off. We have this man.
He's quite good with a bat. He's got a stick in the start. He's short and he's fat. He's got a stick in the start.
Did I just see
He's not there.
No, it's Carey.
It's Travis Head and Marcus Harris are opening the batting.
Are you serious? Was it Travis Head? I thought I saw Carey on the back of his. Okay.
Oh, is it Carey? No, I thought it might have been Travis Head. It could be Carey.
It's Carey.
It is Carey. Okay, well,
batting. Yep.
We'll give Marcus Harris a jingle.
That's the kind of thing that could embarrass, because he's Marcus Harris.
This man is bowling. And this man is on a hiding to nothing.
He's the next cab off the rank. And Alex Carey is his name. Wicket keeping is his stride. And he's not bad with the blade. Only a cricket bat.
And the first ball, Robinson bowls. So it's on the back foot. Carey is facing first ball, punches into the offside. It's fielded by Hamid, and there's no one.
No ball. They're going to get him in no balls. That's what they're going to do.
Yeah, so England obviously trying to get in for the top scoring run scorer of the fourth innings.
Well, yeah.
Well, that's a big one as well. It is a big one.
Indeed. So they got the technology back, fine, on the fourth day. All right, Anthony. It's been a while, mate.
I don't think they needed the third umpire for that one. It was a foot over.
Not. Yeah. Robinson comes in. Actual first ball innings. A nice ball. Beats the outside edge of Carey's bat. There's no run. How many overs? 5? Probably.
Yeah, you wouldn't.
Yeah,
imagine it's going to be much more than that. I mean, it's 20 runs.
I think they thrash, and if someone, a couple of wickets go down, then they take 7 overs.
Yeah, I mean that's yeah. I mean Warner's obviously a bit sore in the ribs still, so staying in the shed.
That's a good thing.
Won't be needed.
There was another no ball as well. Looking at that replay, weirdly enough, and they missed that one. But you also got to remember that
another big
Harris,
one too.
Harris is playing for his place really because Kawaj is there in the background waiting for a little spot to open up. So if Harris fails here, then there's going to be a bit of pressure on him. So he's going to have to go red ink really.
Hiding to nothing. That's what we call that. So he leaves that one outside his off stump. There's no run. Yeah, he is on a hiding to nothing. Yeah, you're right. It was a big no ball too. Well, if it had nicked it, they'd have checked it, wouldn't they? That seems to be but that's really annoying if you're a bowler. It's only getting checked. If it's being checked every ball, you're overstepping, right? And consistently, so you try and drag it back. But if it's only ever checked when you take actually a wicket, that can be problematic in the modern game when you're expecting that. So that's defended by Carey back down the track. There's no run. I think Robinson is probably the pick of England's bowlers in this test.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, when I was on day 2, I talked about that kind of in-between length, and Australia proved again this morning that was the length that's going to get you wickets here. And Robinson's probably the only one. I know they're different bowlers, Wood and Wokes, but he's the only one that hits that in-between length when is required in Australia.
Exactly. That one's too wide though, and left alone by Carey, too, to keeper. There's no run. Okay, so you're an England man. Let's take some positives here. Broad and Anderson are fresh as daisy going into the next day, which is a day-night test. Ollie Robinson's the only one probably going to come through. Wood bowl well, so they may keep him in the side and therefore drop Leach, going with a 5-pronged attack. 2 of which are really fresh and have 1,200 test wickets between them. So, it's a good warm-up go. Oh, wow, that's beating the outside edge. Good ball by Robinson. It's nibbled away, and Carey was groping at it, but it's beaten his outside edge, and it's through the keeper, and there's no run.
He's getting some interesting seam movement, Robinson. The last couple of balls have really hit the deck and turned, moved off to the side. So that, I think that's a good sign. I don't think it's been all negatives for England this Test match. In fact, until today, I think it was, I think it was really down to who got the majority of the luck so far.
Well, there was a lot of that in days 1 and 2. One has to be said, even down to the weather to a certain degree. Flashed out by Carey. I think he was looking to smash that through the offside. He's got a big inside edge. He's got a square leg, gets himself on the mark, and retains the strike. But a pretty poor shot, and there's no run.
There was an interesting quote from Justin Langer this morning. He basically said that the only difference between the two sides on paper is the fact that Australia have got a world-class spinner. Yeah,
and that is, well, I mean, this is it. I think England do have a world-class bowling attack when it's all there. I think it's home conditions again, isn't it? I mean, exactly that. When Australia come to England, you go, well, look, Hazelwood, Cummings and Stark, they're really good bowlers, but England have home advantage and should be able to exploit the conditions a little bit better. And you think the same when you're in Australia, It is quite close.
Playing it too much in the first innings and lots of things that should have been left that ended up as wickets.
Exactly, and I think we said that actually in the summer when England played India. Rohit and KL Rahul have been walking wickets pretty much in England for the last series and previous series to that. And the one thing you noticed was, especially Rohit, the amount of balls he left. And actually England batsmen who play it all the fucking time were just, flashing the bat at it and getting out. That's a decent ball as Woke starts from the other end and gets a little bit of angle into the bat and the pads. But it's defended back down the track. So he has a jingle that goes a little bit like this.
Wokes was fit, got out of bed, went and had himself a net, found his way that his heel had healed, passed the test and he went to the team.
As the camera flashes on Jim Anderson off the hip of Carey. And into leg side is now run. Which of you guys is supposed to be doing the old tweets?
Me, I think I'm on that. I can do some stuff off YouTube for a minute. Sam King was loving the Gladstone chat there. Says he met him at the mass cricketer game at Oxford Downs. Lizardy Wizard, I think he's on the wrong channel because he wants audio of UFC 269. I'm not quite sure that's happening.
That ain't it. Presumably that's Ultimate Fight something or other, isn't it? So that's defended back down the track and there's no run. People racking it out in a cage.
Yes. Facebook. Kamran Akchazi still thinks England will win at the Ashes in 2021.
Well,
yeah, a bit confused. I think the young fella. And Glenford De Jong has joined us from Guyana. Well done, Glenford. Fantastic to have you on board.
Indeed, indeed. That's into the pads of Carey. Flicks that nicely down to long leg. Robinson's down there, and it'll be a single.
Out of the 5 pitches that are being played this summer, it probably is the first 2 that England are going to struggle the most on. And of course, the whacker gone to. The whacker's gone to Belrive now, and Perth has moved to Tasmania, and Tasmania's probably going to be it's going to be a lot more suited to England than
is it? Yeah, I was going to say Tasmania is a little bit further south, a little bit greener. Is it a sort of green seamer? Is it English conducive?
It is definitely a green seamer down there.
It could be interesting. Series tied or England 1 behind going in. Mind you, we wouldn't retain the Ashes.
Well, you've got to remember as well, it's going to be under lights and a pink ball, so it could well do all sorts.
There's a bigger pill. That's out. That's got to be out. Fucking review that, man. That's an in-swinger from Wokes. Yeah. You've got to review that. If you didn't hit that, that looks fucking plumb. And that'll be the first LBW of this series, and it could be, well, it's been given on out, so it might be clipping. But it's a classic English delivery, actually. In-swinger to the left-handed Harris. He seemed to go to clip it in his leg side, missed it. Plumb in front of, I'd say, middle. And the question will be, it's going over the top. Yeah. England have reviewed. It's not an oval. It's not an oval. You'll be pleased to hear. It's only marginal. There's a little bit of the heel behind
edge is the only thing.
Well, I don't think he did. Big inside edge. Actually.
Yes, he did.
Big inside edge. England will lose the review. That's why it hit him plumb in front of middle.
That's right.
Because the inside edge took it onto his pad, right in front of middle. Is that last ball the over? Because I really need to go and visit the loo.
Quick shout out to Dr. Grippo, who's he just wants this shit over with, and I'm in the same boat at the minute. Although I'd like to see the Aussies lose a couple of wickets here and there, just first.
Well, exactly. If Harris goes, that puts something in his mind, doesn't it? As that's left alone outside the off stump. There is no run. I'm nipping to the loo. You two chat and give some tweets.
Another big seam movement on that one.
Anthony, it's great to see you, mate, because I think the last time we did a commentary stint together, we were actually on air when Stark took the first wicket of a test match against Sri Lanka over there.
Were we? Yes, right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there you go. Yeah, I struggle to remember things that happened in the past sometimes. I've taken a few too many knocks to the head. So it does hinder my ability to recall the past, which, as a historian is a bit of a hindrance. But yes, tend to make up with my notes, and it's always good to have people around that can remember things that I've done.
Yeah. So great similarities between that test match and this one, with the first wicket of the test match again for Stark. So I think you remember that was caught at square leg, though.
Yeah, Robinson's lined up at the top of his crease, and he sent that down, and it's Carey's just knocked that out, and there's a big struggle to running between the wickets, a big dive, and manages to get there. It would have been very, very close had it been a direct hit on the stumps at the bowler's end, as Carey's bat just bounced up in the air, but in the end,
flicked out.
That Milan couldn't successfully complete.
Hamid with yet another unsuccessful run-out attempt.
Yeah, indeed.
This time from a bit further away than the 2 yards he missed when
it's
trying
all
to run
right.
out David Warner.
We're building up that luck for one special moment.
Yes.
One special session.
Yeah, exactly.
Not just one moment, one session.
Well, look, those change matches, Anthony. Of course, Anthony, last time I met you, you were here at Gorilla Towers.
Yes, indeed. And my global tour of the Empire a number of years ago, going through some archives, results of which due out in not too distant future.
Excellent. Robinson is in, left alone outside the off stump by Harris, the keeper, and there's no run.
It's quite interesting. I'm noticing England's body language is, even though they're staring defeat right in the face, they're actually looking up and about out on the field, which is a good sign.
Yeah, I think as Anthony said, I think there are some positives to take, and I think that they've got Anderson brought in reserve. Maybe they only bring one, maybe they bring both back for the next test. I don't think England have bowled that bad. I think it's just batting has really failed on the day one. So that's clipped nicely by Harris off his pad. So we'll get a single down the long leg and there's no run. I always think you've got to take a test as an individual event. And no matter what happened in the first test, if you think, you're there or thereabouts, next time around you think, the positive result can happen. I mean, I guess that falls away if you get 3-0 down or 2-0 down even with 3 to play. But 1-0 down with 4 to play, you can go, okay, we were undercooked, we came here, there's some good things happen, there's some bad things happen, you go away, you hone your skills a little bit, driven back down the track by Carey. Robinson doesn't field it, but it goes to mid-on, there's no run.
Especially if you've saved your two most potent bowlers. Yeah. Say it's like, okay, we rest them for this first test, and probably going to go one down, but then they'll be fit for the next 4. It's a lot of cricket in a very short amount of time. So
exactly.
It's not like that. This is the full strength England attack that has.
No, it's not.
Failed.
I mean, it's the first time that neither of them have bowled since about 2000 and God knows when. That's left
6
alone.
or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's actually insanely long ago. If that's left alone by Carey.
Well, just on that, Farong is asking, do England go Leachless into Adelaide? And I think the consensus is it's looking increasingly likely.
Well, yeah, there are 2 reasons for that, though, aren't there? I mean, it's not just that Leach has been attacked, and I think he could come back. But I think it's the amount of lefties that they have in the top 7. I think Root has to take the role of the. You need a right-arm spinner. They're not going to go for Bess as a specialist. That's too wide, and Carey hits it over the top with not great time, probably off the tail of bat out towards deep cover. I think it's probably going to chase down. It is by Hamid. They'll get back for 3. They think about 4. In fact, there might be a run out of the bowler's end because they were going for 4. Harris was desperate to get back, and he was about halfway down the track.
Lord Lupin makes a great point. It's not really Jack Leach's fault. He's just been poorly managed, and he's had little middle practice. So that is a fair point. He's not played much cricket the past 2 years.
Yeah, no, I do think that's fair. And he probably, I don't know if he's ever gone over and played grade cricket in Australia. There's a difference, though. I was a left-arm spinner, and if you have a slightly harder track, you can drag it. It's all about length, really, as spinners and flight and that whole dictum. And if you've got a harder wicket and you can get it up and down quicker, you can bowl it shorter and draw the bat. You got more chance of drawing a batsman into a full stroke almost, because you can give it a little bit more flight, drag it a little bit back. And things like that matter, especially at this level. It's less so at club level, but the higher you get, the more important that control is. As Carey, did he leave that? Was he beaten? I don't know. Missed his outside edge.
It didn't bounce. It only got about a foot off the ground.
Yeah, exactly.
I was going to say, did he get an edge on that? Definitely didn't carry, but
I don't think he did.
Sorry, go ahead.
No. I just say I don't think he did get an edge. I think it just beat his outside. I don't know if it's a slower ball. The speed gun goes very quickly on this bloody graphic. They only need 10 runs though, so it doesn't really matter. That's played into the leg side by Carey, and there's no run. Sorry, 11 they require.
But it was another one that it really kept flat as well, and there's been a few of those today. It doesn't matter now because the game's almost over. But I think if England had been able to hold on and this was tomorrow, I think it would have been a much more exciting pitch to be bowling.
Yeah, I mean, overall, as we've said many a time on podcasts or whatever, as Carey is in, and it's played up to mid-off and there's no run. this is the way I think a lot of people over here see this test as sort of a battle between bowling attacks, because I think both batting lineups are actually quite fragile. You know, Root don't.
Yes.
England don't have a lot. Australia have a couple, exactly. Maybe slightly a little bit more, but everyone's, fragile. Apart, you say Labuschagne and Smith probably for Australia. Warner is just coming back, it seems, as Wokes pulls out as he's about to deliver and there's no run. And of course,
that's actually, that could go on to be a really crucial talking point of this whole Ashes, is Warner and Head playing themselves into form.
Yeah,
Head's had a good lead up, but Warner's had a shocking 2 years.
Well, exactly, and then just got back into form as the semis and the final that bloody T20 competition, as that's played into leg side and there's no run. I wasn't sure that would transfer into Test match cricket, because it's a completely different way of playing the game, but it does seem to.
He didn't look comfortable. He was nearly out 7 or 8 times.
Well, he was out. Sure. Well, exactly. I mean, he was bowled and he was dropped, and he got hit in the ribs. Exactly that. He's going on a bit, and I really think that England missed. The joy of Jofra Archer playing in the series would have been immense.
Agreed.
I think if you're English.
Yeah.
So that's clipped behind square on the leg side by Carey, who'll get himself 2. Australia will move on to 11. They need 9 to win. One ball.
Because he's nice and tall, isn't he, Archer?
Yeah, he's just languid, and he just delivers a quick ball from a great height, much as see, that's the thing, Wood is very much skiddy.
Well, he would have been. I reckon Archer would have been terrifying on this pitch.
Exactly, it's a big shame. But it's the way of the modern world, isn't it, with injuries. Carey hits that reasonably sweetly back, but good bit of fielding by Wokes off his own bowling.
I wasn't sure why he wasn't on tour. So it's just the typical fast bowler held together with some sticky tape.
Yeah, he's had a real problem with his elbow for a good 11 months. They've kept trying to give him injections and all that kind of crap, and I think he's had 2 operations now on it.
Didn't he get injured cleaning his goldfish tank in the bath?
Yeah, that was different though. It's not. That's not. I think he cut himself on that one, which is really stupid. But he's had a problem since around about the 2019 World Cup. I think we were pretty much nursing him. I don't know if it's a floating bone in the elbow or one of those things that causes extreme pain. They've given him a couple of injections. England, Robinson is going to continue. Defended back up the trap and there's no run. And
just a quick stat from Knackers there. Carey has broken the record for most catches on Test debut with 8. So Carey, that's why they've thrown him in. He's on a high.
Well, Australia will be cock a hoop at the end of this. Having said that, England will probably feel that this is what usually happens. And the question is, can you come back? I mean, with all these things, if you lose the first one, it's always tricky. Cut by Carey out towards deep cover. No one out there. They should get 3 out into the deep.
But I think
there's 3.
If England had, I think they've demonstrated that they have everything. And I think this could have been a competitive match. I think a few things go either way, and I think that should be the mindset that the English take into the rest of the series. That it was there or thereabouts this test, bar today really, and I mean, I know you English like to put on your doom helmets. But,
no, I'm quite not. I mean, that's clipped by Carey down deep long leg and there's no one. I see sport as individual. I've said this before. I see sport as individual events, and I think that teams that are reasonably matched. I think it's you really have to put what's happened behind you. You have to believe that you're evenly matched, and I think these two sides aren't that uneven. I think probably Australia do have the edge, and the problem is they are at home. You've got to believe.
I think it stems from the top of the order. To be honest, you've got Burns and Hamid at the top. You're going to be 2 down early doors. Now in Australia, you've got to be positive and aggressive when your openers. These 2 openers are just trying to survive. Well, and I think that's the main difference between the 2 sides.
as that's defending the leg side by Carey, and there was no run. I'm not sure I'm so on that, but I kind of agree. I think that I was saying earlier, I think that Crawley's had a fucking terrible time over the last few years, but he's a really tall man and he likes to drive, and I think he likes the pace onto the bat, and I think if I imagine they'll stay with Hamid and Burns. I thought Hamid bowled all right. I thought the second innings, it's a bit careless to get caught down the leg side.
I think he definitely batted better in this Test match than he did through the summer, even though he got that 80 odd. But
on the pads of
I just think his technique isn't suited for Australia, to be honest. But we'll wait and see.
Yeah, maybe so. He's a reasonable lever, though. He's quite conscientious, I think, at the crease. 3-4 runs required to win. Just one boundary. Could happen in this ball. And we'll have one more over after this. I imagine that'll be done by now. Yeah, I know what you mean. It's difficult. I don't think you can... English openers are kind of reticent anyway, because the conditions we have... Oh, dear Christ, that's out, isn't it? It is indeed. Ollie Robson.
It is out.
Does get Carey. Beautiful delivery, length ball, round about leg stump.
That's Harris, isn't it?
Was that Harris? Oh, that's good news actually, because he's the opener. He's got bugger all runs. He's the legitimate opener. It seemed away. It's a good delivery by Robinson.
No, it is Carey. Sorry, apologies.
It is. Well, it's keeps
it is
changing.
Carey. Yeah. So they crossed over. I think and the graphics were wrong or something.
The graphics, the whole fucking production values for a multinational company have been pretty shoddy, let's be honest. It was Carey, and it was a really good ball though. It's just nipped away and taken the edge.
That's the plan that Robinson's been bowling for the last couple of overs. He's been getting that nice C movement, and that was exactly what caught the batsman out.
I think everyone in England who knew anything thought that Robinson would be useful in Australia. He's not the quickest, but he bowls the right length and he's very probing with his line. Well, God, if we can get this guy out, he's fucking irritating, Labuschagne. I have to say, he's really fucking irritating. It's just mannerisms, the whole thing about him.
That's the Welshman in him nowadays.
You really don't like the jitters, do you?
Nah, Smith, it's kind of funny, right? Yeah, because he's done it. But I don't know. It just seems like a sort of tribute act, and it's just weird, isn't it?
Smith's an authentic weirdo, whereas you think Labuschagne's just putting it on.
No, I think he's authentic, but authentic and following someone else's is just two steps beyond. I don't know. He's very good. I'll give him that. I did think on day one, I said this before, I thought he took fucking age between balls when he first came out. Day two, it must have been day two. Full and driven square by Harris out towards the boundary. That could be it. Is it going to make it the boundary? It is going to make the boundary. That's it.
That is.
Done. Australia win 20-1. That's really annoying when you're when you're Alex Carey. You got out one ball, next ball hit for 4, and the game is over. That's really irritating. Labuschagne didn't get the face. Australia have won, and they played a better cricket. Had a bit of luck along the way, maybe. Got the right decision by losing the toss, maybe. But in the end, they've won 3 days out of 4, and that wins you Test matches.
Yep. Yeah, I think
before we go quickly, I just got a shout out to Harshith Ayadevara, all the way from Arkansas.
Hello, mate. Go for it.
That's it. Jeff G. Thomas, England lost a review. Will they regret that later in the innings? Well,
No.
the answer is no.
Yes, and Joe Root claps probably the England supporters in the crowd, and Australia go on. They're 1 up. It's not unusual for England to be 1 down after the cover. It's all a question of how they play in the next game.
Very true.
They were undercooked. They came here, didn't get enough cricket, weather, and schedules, and all of that nonsense, plus COVID. But hopefully they've learned something from this game, and they can go on the next one and make it a little bit more competitive. There at times they were, they were in the game, and then they lost it. You know, I'm an England fan. I've watched all their games for the last 12 years. I've seen it many times before, and we'll see what happens when they come back. Any last thoughts, boys?
Well, I mean, look, you've got to take positivities out of day 3. Root and Milan batted very well. They threw it away this morning, but in terms of batting out for a long period and building a partnership, that was fantastic. Kind of everything else crumbled around them, but in terms of that can only be a good sign. And positivities in terms of bowling, you know, Robinson's bowled quite well, Wood's bowled quite quick. Apart from that, where are we at with Stokes, where are we at with Wokes, I guess, is the...
well, we've got Broad and Anderson to come back, get rid of Leach, and you still have Stokes as the 5th bowler, but you have Broad and Anderson, you have your 2 best bowlers from this game, which are Ollie Robinson and Mark Wood, and then you hopefully have a really good 5-pronged attack.
Well, I've actually had people at the Gabba yesterday, and they saw that Broad and Anderson bowl for about 45 minutes flat out, non-stop, so they are... fit is the word I'm going to use.
Okay, well, that's good news. That's good to hear. I'm sure they'll about finish this. Anthony, any last words from you?
Yeah, I think the series is looking set up nicely. I think England are in it, absolutely. I think Australia had some ups and some downs. I think it's good to see Warner getting into form. It would be horrible to see him have, you know, another sort of 50-less summer kind of thing.
Oh, really? As an Englishman, I'd love it.
Yeah, but I don't know. It's kind of like one of those things that, like, you know, I'd really like watching Virat Kohli bat, even if he's destroying Australia. It's you know, the sort of those players that can that are just great fun to watch. I'm really looking forward to seeing the English quicks back in next, and I think the main thing is that the Adelaide Test match day-night is quite possibly it's one of the more picturesque Test matches that happens around the world. I think it's sort of up there with the Himachal Pradesh Stadium or whatever it is in India, up in the Himalayas. But yeah, just watch the sun go down over the Adelaide Oval with the pink ball under lights is quite a sight, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Is it a drop in it, Adelaide?
I believe so. I think this is
Really?
the only non-drop-in pitch left in Australia.
Adelaide, they held up so long. Anyway, oh well. Well, it's good to have you all along, White Lion people. It's really nice that we have Australians, especially as it's middle of the night here most of the time, and you boys are during the day and quite compos mentis. Me, I'm absolutely smashed right now. It's a good thing. I can get to go to bed early tonight, and I will have a Sunday off. I hope you'll all be joining us on Thursday morning.
We go again Thursday.
Go again Thursday. We'll be on air at about 3:40, 3:50 in the morning AM here. But until then, keep yourselves, nice and calm and collected. And thanks.
It's not doom helmet time yet, England.
Don't worry about it. Things can only get better. We'll see you then. Thanks, guys, for being here. And it's good night to you all. Good night.
Cheerio. Yeah.
Guerrilla